and I will be your next mayor in 2023.
Too right, you will, Jesse.
I want to speak on the sweeps. The sweeps continue. We're going into the winter now, and the city does not seem to have a solution for our unhoused neighborhood.
No, they do not. You got it.
All while we have 26,000 vacant luxury apartments. Now, I'm seeing the budget that you're talking about $5 million for another shelter.
That's right.
People that are on the streets, as I was for a number of years, do not want to go to shelters, especially during a pandemic, especially during a pandemic such as COVID. The shelters are full of diseases. The shelters don't let couples in. The shelters don't let people with pets in. The shelters neglect a lot of people that need to be housed. But this city seems to think the answer is sweeping people like trash.
That's right.
And forcing people into shelters. All while there's 26,000 vacant luxury apartments in this town. So that tells me as the city has its priorities all messed up.
Is there any way we can turn down these for a little bit since there's no answer, but it'll improve the sound quality for people watching at home?
Not being able to cover themselves with a tarp, a sleeping bag.
I sure appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir.
Has been deemed illegal in Denver by way of the urban camping ban that was passed in 2012. And this council does not seem to have any will or initiative to overturn that ban.
Candy does, no one else.
Denver Homeless Out Loud has given a long list of proposals to all the city council members, and especially Candy Baki. She has brought these proposals to you. And as we seen last week, we voted them all down. So what that tells me is you have your priorities all messed up, and you're not really trying to help people that are unhoused on the streets of Denver. You just want to sweep them like trash, continue to move them along, continue to disperse their communities. People build community out here on these streets. And the answer that the city has been given time and time again is just go to a shelter. People don't want to go to a shelter. People need housing that they can actually afford to live in. And own. Not just rent, but own. But this city does not make that a priority at all. The only focus is tourism dollars and making sure that the city has a beautiful image.
Oh, I wanted to turn it down for the broadcast quality. Yeah, any more people come in,
so I ask this council
change it, but
to let us know tonight where your priorities stand when you vote on this 2021
I broadcast for people who don't have Zoom and don't have access to a computer, so they're watching on their phones.
Our next speaker is Jenny Dees.
Very cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you.
Go ahead.
Is that better, yo?
Hi, my name is Jenny Dees. I'm here to talk about the Denver Family Court.
It's how we
the mayor's and the city
agree,
council's failures.
because clapping, if everybody claps, it gets really loud, but if everybody snaps, it's more polite.
Hubler took our case back in 2014 after Judge Hood, who is now a justice, was moved to the Supreme Court. Hubler took our case even though she was not allowed to as a magistrate because the 2-year mark was not up, and we did not, both parties did not allow her to come on as a magistrate. She then kidnapped my child under color of law and left him in a house of horrors to be raped. This city council,
They do, and I have real bad arthritis in that joint. Just that one's a reason I don't understand that right there.
I came to my district, District 11, with Stacy Gilmore 2 years ago to talk to her about this and to show her all the evidence. She did absolutely nothing. Nothing. I have let every city council member know of the failure.
I'm double jointed. I feel you.
And what she's doing in this court.
You're gonna give me another pair.
They have done nothing. I will tell you, my child was yanked from me because I was hit with 7 false charges for false reporting and attempt to influence a public official and child abuse for reporting my son's sexual assault.
I really didn't think it was going to happen.
I demanded trial, and I was found not guilty by a jury of 12. Magistrate Hubler refuse
plus,
all
like, I'm
evidence
from
from
the
that
deep
trial,
South.
including
He
forensic
is
police
incredibly
interviews,
popular,
CPS,
and the
trial
thing that no one
transcript.
understands about
She didn't want
why
to see any of it
it's not
because
that
she
we're
didn't care to
ignorant
keep my child
people
safe.
from where I'm from. It's not that
She
we're
found my ex
specifically
guilty
racist, though yes,
in
systemic racism is a thing.
2019, April
What it's
2019,
about
of
is that
contempt
we have
for
been
withholding all
overlooked
3
for
kids
so
from over
long.
200
We were
calls
all Democrats
and
when I was
200
growing up.
visits.
All the farmers were Democrats.
She did
And they lied
absolutely
to us
nothing
and made
to him,
promises
but
they
turned
never
to me
kept.
and said that
And we
those
just gave
visits
up.
would be stricken
And
because I
Republicans
needed
weren't
a psych
offering
eval,
anything
because I
until
dare
they
speak about
started
this on social
becoming
media.
tribal and being like, do you want to fuck up the Dems? We were like, yes, we do. And it's funny
This
to me.
is
The
against
Dems
the
don't know
law.
that. How many people
It's
they would win back if they
interference
just said, hey,
with
you know what,
child
we're sorry.
custody. It's
And
parental
we're going to center
interference.
the common man again.
CRS
Because they don't.
183-304.
I am too.
Your Denver PD I have recorded from last week stating that they refuse to take reports, and it's Denver's
would've gotten
policy
so
that
much
they don't
worse.
take reports.
I
on
don't
this.
love Biden. I got
They
a lot of
also,
issues, but anything is better than Trump. Anything.
Also, Beth McCann has refused to take any reports or do anything on this.
Yeah, I've never met
My
anyone who
child
wanted
is
to be
not
president
safe.
less
Schuler
than he does.
continues to
I
break
just
the
don't think he's
laws,
interested.
and this city council needs to do something about her and get her off of the bench. She's a hire and fire at will employee. Why have you left her there knowing for years she's been doing this?
Thank you, Ms. Dees. Our next speaker is Lex
Absolutely.
Ankely.
Yes, can you hear me?
I say do it, and then
Go
I mean,
ahead.
no cold there
Thank
would be
you.
good for your fingers.
So I'm here today to talk to you about the budget that's in front of you. I was really disappointed listening to
Someday.
the meeting last week that all of the amendments that we're dealing with, you know, the public health
Let's
and
get
housing
ready to
crisis
go.
that we are
Everyone say
facing,
hi to
all
the
of those
security
did not
guard
pass.
who's going to keep
It seemed as though there were only one
Come
or
keep
two
my
people
stalker
doing
off
the
of me.
work
Yay.
to try to solve those problems. I'm very disappointed in the
Yay.
lack of collaboration.
You can
between
come
all
inside and
of
you can
you.
talk to
We
me.
need to
My
have
name
better
is, I'm at CoachMKFleming.
One of the largest
I would love to
things
tell you all the
that I
different
found
ways that you
very
can help,
disappointing
but
was
we
that,
really need to highlight this
X,
terrible
Y, and Z
budget.
amendments would have passed if you had found a different place to cut them in the budget. If that's really what it comes down to, then
Yep.
we need to be talking about these very important things about where you would all be happy to see the cuts happen.
Yep.
Instead of just, oh, well, it's not in the right place, so that's just going to be it. This is too important. These amendments are too important to let them just die like that. And
Correct.
I challenge you today to treat these as an emergency and to find some way to find room in the budget and in your hearts for these things.
And in your hearts.
We are again in a public health and housing crisis, both of which feed into each other. Like, especially we are close to going into lockdown from what I understand. So our homelessness crisis is only going to get worse.
That's right.
As far as public health, one of the big things that I want to challenge you to try to find room somewhere in this budget, like try to do something about this. Don't just let another year pass is the big thing. We cannot wait another year to have basic trash and toilet service as a public health item.
That's right.
That's just something that I think we need to provide. And I think that in this crisis, it's absolutely essential that we do so. If we do not provide trash, it's such a basic thing. You would not go without trash service in your home. If you had your house, you wouldn't just say, oh, well, that one trash can over there, I'm not going to empty it. You would.
I mean, my husband says that, my kids say that.
It's going to affect the rest of the
Nobody
house.
else
You're
says
going
that.
to get rats. You're going to get vermin. We don't need more vermin problems. We already have a disease, COVID, that happened from transmission between animal to human. If you allow trash to build up like that, you're going to have more vermin, which again increases the possibility of transmission of different diseases, COVID and others. We could have more diseases like that then transfer from human to animal. And we don't need that happening. There's also other problems with sanitation. California is a really good example to look at of how not to handle lack of public facilities. They have rampant disease there because of that. So I'm going to urge you today to please find some way to end this budget. You need to treat it like the emergency that it is, and not just say, oh, well, we didn't have enough time to fund these things. It's just going to wait another year.
Or we didn't have enough time to actually read the email that was sent on Friday.
You can't
get
just allow
weekends off? I don't get
lack
weekends
of
off.
time to the reason why we're not cutting that budget. There has to be someone.
I've never walked into a meeting ever
rubber bullets
that I was paid to attend
Thank
and said,
you.
oh, you sent
please take
You
care of
sent
it.
me these emails on Friday.
Thank
I haven't had
you.
time to read them yet.
Our next speaker is
Can't
Rebecca
imagine.
Henderson.
I bet if you did that, you get fired.
Good evening. First of all, I wanted to
Or if some of
offer
these
you
people
guys
are gonna
some
get fired.
congratulations for the measures that passed on the ballot for you to be able to improve our democracy and not having such a strong mayor with a strong authoritarian background. So I think that that is good. So good job. I'm
I think
also
the
here
movement
to
this
talk
summer has
about
really
our unhoused
elevated
neighbors
things because
and the
I
disappointment
didn't
that I
understand
felt
the
seeing
connection
your
between
votes
the
last
Unhoused
week
and
around
the
proposal,
movement for Black Lives until I really got involved. And now I'm like, oh, I get it now. It's all connected.
For the porta potties and for trash pickup.
I'm a rich person, let me tell you. That's why I'm here.
I'm appalled, honestly.
Thank you. I don't make money doing this. I do this as a volunteer.
Mondays
Thank you.
coming here
Yeah.
to stay to
I came.
do
I was
elected
unhoused for a couple years when I was little because my dad had a heart attack and
All of
we lost
you.
everything. And so I'm committed to
these
shining
are
light on
our
this.
citizens. These
They
are people who
waste
are
our
living
money.
here.
Well,
And
most
you're,
people
like,
don't believe it because, like,
killing
we
them.
talk
Like,
about
people
having social
are
mobility
dying.
and you can be anything
And
you
more
want. We
people
know it's a
will
lie.
die, and it's really
It's a lie. I'm
distressing
one of the
to
few
me
who actually
that
did it. I'm the unicorn
it
who went
seems
from
like
a
you
farm
just want to
to
put
the Ivy League schools,
your
lived all over
values
the world,
are
came
not
back
where
here and was
I
like,
think they should be.
wait.
So I
Thank
would
you.
love
Thank
to
you.
see you not wait a year like the previous commenter.
It needs to be the
and
highest
just, you know,
priority.
I know you can do it. Like when if it was something else, you would get it done.
Yes.
So that is all I really have to say today. But I think that
You know something though? I
really
love Detroit.
appreciate it if
I do. I've been there. I hate.
you could think about being
I'm sure
kinder,
living there's
better,
got to be really hard, but I
just
love
in
the
general.
commitment in the grassroots organizations, the people who are the community organizers there
Our next
are like
speaker is
none other I've
Shannon
ever seen. Yep.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Shannon Hoffman. I live in
Oh,
District
ours is
10.
too here. I can't stand him. Can't stand
Thank you
him.
to Jesse and Rebecca. I'm also here to
There's
speak about the needs of our unhoused neighbors. And so would just very much like to
That's why I wear my.
second, especially what they have said. We are in a crisis moment. If you just look out your
I get
window
it. How could you
today,
not?
it's cold and snowing outside, and
care.
people will
Okay.
die.
We've got people at every.
So
Oh, it's Shannon.
I'm very
Hi, Shannon.
disappointed that these amendments were not
Hey,
approved
KJ.
last week, that we can't even provide
Carrie, I'm
trash
making friends
service.
over here. It's my new
It really
baby.
seems like you're
Want to say hi?
relying on the
Yay.
safe outdoor space, but the thing is that those RFPs, it doesn't seem like that's going to be completed until the end of December, and we really need some solutions immediately now
They're
for our
wrong.
unhoused neighbors.
They are incorrect.
It
So
also
incorrect.
seems
Who said
that
that?
you are not interested in permanent or long-term solutions or housing
Oh,
first
okay.
solutions in terms of
No offense. She's totally fine. But most of these
master
council
leasing
members are so
option.
detached
So,
from their people.
it's
They
just
don't understand the
really
nature of the protest who comes and what we care
disheartening,
about.
and I want more out of where I live, and intend
yeah.
to continue
Shoot,
to
I don't
hold
even
you
want to drive through
accountable to
that
that,
place is so light.
and to pay attention. I can't believe that these sweeps are continuing this week when
Me
it's snowing
neither.
and cold outside.
Tuesday and
folks
Thursday.
don't have anywhere to go in the middle of a global pandemic. And the thing is that we're supposed to be this progressive city, and we're not. People in Portland and Los Angeles are
there's
providing
another wave coming. It's bad.
trash service
It's really bad.
and bathrooms
So
to
we
unhoused
told everyone
neighbors.
we need you to
In
show up. City council
Philadelphia,
needs to see that
people
we're not
are
going
going
anywhere,
into
just like the
unleased
unhoused.
places
But you
to
got to
have a
mask up to
home.
be here because
So I don't understand why
bad.
we can't do this here. And I believe that we can do it. And I believe in the power of this group. And I believe most importantly in people power and
Well, it's because
community
he keeps
power.
wasting all the money
And that
on the
we will
damn
hold you
sweets.
account to do it. So thank you for listening and for your time today.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Katie Blakey, but we're also looking for Kate Adams in the attendees. So Kate Adams, if you're in the attendees, please raise your hand.
I don't know. And so many of them are there either on petty offenses. They're not violent. They don't need to be in there.
And I live in District
Every
10.
other state has
First
done
off, I
something
just want
about
to
it.
say I completely support everything Jesse, Rebecca, and Shannon said. We need sanitation services to encampments now, and we need to stop forced displacement of our unhoused neighbors. So I signed up to speak today to ask that you take bold action to address the growing homelessness crisis in our city. Like many others, I'm really excited for the proposed safe outdoor spaces in Capco and hope they can become a model for other districts. I'm also a proponent of opening up more daytime shelters, expanding employment programs, providing sanitation services.
I don't have the answers, but you know what?
And repealing the urban
If
camping ban.
these people aren't
But none
looking,
of these
then
are
they got to get
replacement
fired
for
because they ain't
housing.
doing their jobs.
The master leasing budget amendments.
And as far as I know, the only one doing their
Councilman
jobs,
last
Chris Hines is
council
trying to, but he's got to be
offer
kicked in the
solution
pants
to
once in a
the
while.
slow of the
And Candace Debaka, she shows
Voters
up
have approved
every
the sales
single
tax
day.
to
I
fund
love her.
solutions to homelessness.
Like, she made me care
as
about
well as to
politics
give
again.
council the power to amend
I
the
felt
budget
like,
during the
well,
year.
nothing's going to
Please
change.
use these tools to fund programs that get people housed now. Our shelter-heavy approach isn't working, and unhoused neighbors continue to face forced displacement.
I get it. I mean,
including
you
a
have to
forced
sit in here week
displacement
after
event
week keeping them
scheduled
safe
tomorrow
too.
at 22nd and Wazee in this freezing, terrible weather. 200 people experiencing homelessness died last year.
Yeah.
More unhoused people may die tonight. These
really
deaths
sad.
are preventable, and you have the power to stop them. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean,
Our
you've
next
seen the
speaker
change
is
that we've
Kate
been able to
Adams.
make it just in like the past 6 months alone. I'm convinced now that we got 2G passed and we can propose budget amendments all year long.
Good
I'm only
evening.
crawling up their
My name
asses
is
till
Kate Adams and I
2023.
reside in Denver. I am speaking in opposition to the group living amendment. as
Oh, I
it
don't
was
want to
written.
run. No, shit, I
It
don't want to deal with
concerns
people that
me
talk to me the way I talk to
This
them.
administration and CPD would submit a
Oh, I don't want
change
to be
to the
quiet ever.
zoning
That's why I'm going to
code
stay on this side.
affecting the
I mean, I wanna
majority
sit
of
here
Denver residents
and
that
observe, but I don't
describes
wanna be there.
people per square foot as an acceptable policy for council to even consider. This does not sound like a value that respects the residents of Denver. It does make me ask, what country am I living in? Let me be clear. I agree that there are problems, and others have pointed those out tonight,
Mm-hmm.
and some zoning rules need to be changed. Your constituents deserve good, long-term solutions to the issues in Denver,
Correct.
not the disparaging proposal offered after the time and taxpayer resources that were spent. My hope is that CPD is working in good faith with Luti to provide an acceptable alternative that includes community in its planning for development. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gregory.
See, sometimes
Verzosa.
somebody will start talking and I think they're going to go to a good
My
place
name
and I'm
is
like,
Greg
oh
Verzosa,
no, where'd
and I'm
that
in
come
District
from?
8 up in Northeast Park Hill. When I was here last
This
week, I
guy's
mentioned
good.
that I love this city, but I'm afraid I didn't emphasize what I love so much about it. It's the people of Denver that make the city what it is. So when I hear you reference back to 2008, the year I moved here, and talk about the successes of how the recovery was handled, I have to pause and wonder, by what metrics are we measuring success?
There you
Because over
go.
the first few years here, many
Smart
people in
boy.
places I came to love shut down due to their inability to keep up. When I hear about how we're going back to that playbook to guide us through this one, I have to wonder what it is about the city that you love if you're willing to let the same things happen again.
Good question.
This last weekend, when the news came out about the results of the presidential election, it didn't change the nature or urgency of the work we're doing out here. I spent a little
That's
bit
right.
of time in multiple districts this week talking to people about their eviction cases, and sadly, about half of the addresses I visited already appeared to be vacated.
That makes me just
This is what
sick.
I talk about
Sick.
repeatedly when I say it would be nice if we had more support from this council. What has been
I mean,
done
when I
since the
say we're
vote
wealthy,
earlier
we
this
don't
year
have
in
enough to
support of
house
a
every
rent freeze
person who's
that ended up
unhoused.
being nothing more than a symbolic stance.
I
As
wish we
predicted,
did.
COVID cases are on the rise, and the same communities that were suffering before will continue to suffer now. It's only going to get worse. So as we edge closer and closer to the end of the year, when both the
I
national
want
and
to be able to
statewide
build my own
eviction
building and just
moratoria are
charge whatever
scheduled to
rate I
end,
want.
I
I wish
want
I
you to
had enough money
understand the
just to
gravity
do
of
that
upcoming
so that
actions
we
you can
could.
do that will show people
You have to
that
charge
love them
something so they
and
have
care
some
about
skin
their
in the
safety
game,
more
but
than
not
you do
so
about the city's
much
AAA
that,
bond rating or your
you know what I mean?
401ks.
People, no one values anything
As
they get
I
totally for
said,
free.
many people, despite the eviction moratorium,
But that doesn't
are
mean we
having
have
to
to let
leave their
people at the
homes
market
and
rate
move in
it.
with others.
I don't know. I feel
By
like we
passing
just go about
the
all of
group
this
living
incorrectly.
proposal later this year, you decriminalize something that is already being done, something that will continue to occur as times become more dire. When you have the opportunity to vote on the East Area Plan, understand that by limiting zoning to protect single-family homes, you ultimately tell people that they are not welcome. When you restrict PR bonds, you put people at risk of COVID exposure, and the longer they are staying in prison. Please consider all of these things and how you have a direct effect on people's lives. Last week, the people of Denver showed up for you at the ballot box to give you more power. Please give us the courtesy of starting to show up for us. We're
Hell yeah,
tired
we
of seeing
did.
the same process arguments used as excuses time after time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Anna Cornelius.
Good evening. My name is Anna Cornelius and I live in District 10. And on this cold, snowy night, I'd like to address some of the discussion from last city council meeting.
Woo, she's good. She's great. Anna from Denver found this out loud.
Regarding master
We love you, Anna.
This budget proposal totaling $20 million would have allowed the city to house people right away. The questions raised by council members were designed to shoot this amendment down. According to host director Britta Fisher, the city is currently spending $41.5 million on shelters and services from city funds, plus another $30 million of COVID FEMA money for shelters. In a master lease situation, if the city was paying $1,500 a month, leaving the renter to pay $500 a month on a $2,000 a month lease, this $20 million could pay for housing for over 1,000 people a year.
Yes, it could.
Instead, our city chooses to spend $40 million on shelters for the same 1,000 people to not be housed. So what my city council is telling me is that they prefer to not solve homelessness and keep that money in temporary non-solutions than actually addressing the issue with real solutions, meaning housing.
Yes, Anna!
There's no reason that we cannot house 1,000 people right now.
Yes!
I heard my city council representative state that he has requested the data on what it costs the city to conduct a sweep. He has received no response, no accountability from the city on how our tax dollars are being spent. Then I wonder, how is our city council modeling accountability when they hear public comment but actively vote against all the public comment, as was done last week when these amendments were proposed? On November 3rd, residents of Denver voted on Initiative 2G with a resounding yes.
Yes,
Initiative 2G permits City Council to propose changes in how city funds already allocated in the current year's city budget will be used, or to propose how to use any new unexpected funds that were not accounted for in the budget because they came into the city after the annual budget was adopted. I will continue to push for our City Council to invest in our community and take care of all of our community members and not just protect affluence until it is done. Yay. We're looking at a sweep tomorrow and a sweep again on Thursday.
Inexcusable.
It's cold outside.
Yeah, it is.
It's snowing.
It's
Today,
awful.
I witnessed Denver Police Department going to these camps and telling people that they will be moved tomorrow. Could you survive outside a night in the cold and the snow?
Nope. Nope.
Many people will not.
That's right. You tell them, Anna.
I yield the rest of my time. Thank you.
I love her. She's a badass.
Thank you, Anna.
I would follow her absolutely anywhere.
We have Nate Warner.
It is more detrimental for us.
Hi, can you hear me?
Go ahead, Nate.
It's the worst.
We could hear you there for a second, Nate. You might have to unmute yourself again.
Can you hear me now? Oh yeah, there we go. So my name is Nate Warner, also known as Nathaniel. That is my birth name, but I just go by Nate because it's shorter, it's easier. I am one of your houseless neighbors. I sleep out in the snow. I got a tent right now that I sleep in, and it's very cold. Not only that, you guys are providing trash services.
That's right.
Why? I mean, where am I supposed to throw my trash? Because everybody's got it locked up. And it would be considered trespassing if I was just to take a garbage bag and drop it into a trash can. So if I got no trash, or if I got no place to put my trash, what happens is trash builds up at my campsite, and then all of a sudden the police come. Okay? And again, you know, you're spending $2 million on housing for people right away, right? The budget proposal was $2 million, but the $4.15 million is spent on shelters. I have a lot of experience in these shelters, and I choose to be homeless because of the way the shelters are ran. An 8 o'clock curfew. I can't do this. I can't have that. I can't be this. You got to be at bed at a certain time. Otherwise, you lose your bed and they throw your stuff away. And that's been an experience of mine. And I was in a hospital when the 48th Street shelter threw my belongings away. That includes legal documents, medication, electronics, clothing, and other personal supplies that I need to survive. Everything I had was underneath my bed. My bed was my home. But when I wound up in the hospital, they threw everything away. If you guys are spending so much money on shelters, why can't you do it for housing?
Good question.
Okay, the cops come by and they bug us. How much money is being spent on that? Because it's not fair for them to come and harass us. From what I understand, the police department is here to serve and protect, not bug and annoy. Okay? And you guys are here to make sure that that happens. And so what we need to happen is we need the police to help. We need bathrooms. We need hand washing stations. Oh, and water.
Yep.
Because you can't eat snow.
That's right. Cannot eat the snow.
And tonight I am sleeping outside in a tent. Please help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warner. That concludes our general public comment session. In these times of social change, it's critical that members of the public have more opportunities to be heard by leaders at all levels of government. The next general public comment session will be held before the meeting of council on Monday, November 16th. Sign up begins at 12 noon on Friday, November 13th. Thank you all for attending. Your city council looks forward to hearing from you all again.
You're full of shit. The fuck you do.
Regular session of Denver City Council, which will begin momentarily after a quick break. Please stay with us.
If they really wanted to hear what we'd have to say, they would give more than 10 slots for input, right?
That was all right.
Yeah. You work for the sheriff?
I do.
Okay, but you're not like a cop. What's the difference?
No.
Tell me more.
The cops are the ones doing this homeless stuff. We don't enforce that. I help people out when I go to jail. When they're already in jail, I'll help them out. Like if they're court to community or things are right, try to get their meds right before they go back in jail. So,
oh, good. Okay.
So I'm on that side of it. Just helping people that are locked up right now.
Gosh, that's amazing. That's important because I call myself Protest Mom on Twitter, and the way it works is there are a whole lot of people here that don't have parents that have moved here for one reason or another, or they don't have. When people say we treat you like family, that feels more like a threat than a promise. Yeah, right. So I just I'd like tell me when you're going out, tell me when you're leaving, and then give me a third ping when you get home. And that way we'll know if you've been snatched because they do a lot of that nonsense now. It's all, I mean, as soon as they wait for people to leave and then grab them before they get to their cars. So yeah, that between the signing in with me between, hey mom, I'm getting ready to go. Then they walk to the car and then they tell me a third time when they get home, and I literally have a timer running for each one of them to let me know, yeah, you have to, it's awful. But I've got a couple of protest kids who are either hearing impaired or have type 1 diabetes. They tell me everything, and I know how to if they've got like pets so that I can take care of their pets. Because sometimes it can take more than a day to process people. It's so backed up. So maybe I should get your number too so I can make sure if any of my kids go in, that I got someone on the inside that can help. Oh, please do. I would really appreciate it. Sure. Anything I can do to keep them, because I worry. And I kind of love the fact that, I'm going to take out my hearing aids, Mom. Make sure that they can get them into prison.
That's pretty cool. You're like a brother to the homeless, man. That's a good thing.
Thank you. Well, I mean, somebody's got to give a shit, right? What's the point of making the system work for me if I can't turn around and make it work for other people? Or just destroy it? We do. We need to. I'm sorry.
I'll find out when he comes in. I'll get the number.
Thank you. Bates.
Yes.
What's your first name? How should I address you?
Just Bates. You can call me Bates.
Whatever you prefer.
Sure.
Thank you.
I don't know what the number is, but I'm going to get it before I leave.
That's okay. If I just remember Bates, and if something ever happens, I'll be like, you get Bates on the phone, or Mama's coming to the prison.
Yeah. 720. Yeah, I don't have the phone on me. I left it in my office, but I'll find out when he comes in and I'll get it.
Okay.
That's important for sure.
I appreciate that. No, it sure is, especially the kids with the type 1 diabetes. I get real worried about them.
No, I'll make sure. Hey, Sudbury, what's our sergeant's number? It's 0783, but I don't know the first part.
You're talking about 720-337.
337?
Yeah.
It's 720?
Yeah.
Hold on. Throw that away.
Welcome to the City Council meeting of Monday, November 9th, 2020. Council members, please mute your mic and rise as you're able to join Councilmember Black as she leads us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Thank you.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I appreciate that so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Councilman Black. Council members,
Okay,
please
I'll be
continue
here.
to mute your mics and join Councilmember Black as she leads us in the Denver City Council land acknowledgement.
The Denver City Council honors and acknowledges that the land on which we reside is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, and Arapaho peoples. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. We honor elders past, present, and future, and those who have stewarded this land throughout generations. We also recognize that government, academic, and cultural institutions were founded upon and continue to enact exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle ongoing legacies of oppression and inequities and recognize the current and future contributions of Indigenous communities.
It's not enough to erase the inequities, y'all. It's not enough.
Councilman Black.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, roll call.
Reparations or shut your mouths.
Black,
Here.
Chiedebacca,
Here.
Hi, Candy.
Here.
Flynn,
Here.
Thank you.
Herndon,
Here.
Hines,
Here.
Cashman,
Here.
Kinich,
Here.
Ortega,
Here.
Sandoval,
Here.
Sawyer,
Here.
Torres.
Here.
Madam President,
Here.
there are 13 members present.
There are 13 members present. Council has a quorum. Approval of the minutes. Are there corrections to the minutes of November 2nd? Councilwoman Kinich, I'm assuming you've got your hand raised for the announcements, or okay, great. All right, seeing none, the minutes stand approved. Announcements, council announcements. And I will go ahead and go first because we've got some Board of Equalization information. Tonight, council was scheduled to sit as the quasi-judicial Board of Equalization to consider reduction of total cost assessments for local maintenance districts. However, since no written protests of assessment were filed with the manager of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure by October 22nd, council will not sit as the Board of Equalization for the following local maintenance districts: West 38th Avenue Phase 1 Pedestrian Mall, Expanded Greektown Pedestrian Mall, Golden Triangle Pedestrian Mall, Phase 2 West 38th Avenue Pedestrian Mall, 32nd and Lowell Pedestrian Mall, Broadway Pedestrian Mall B, Phase 2 Broadway Pedestrian Mall, Broadway Viaduct Pedestrian Mall, 22nd Street and Park Avenue West Pedestrian Mall, Consolidated Morrison Road Pedestrian Mall, and Skyline Park. And with that announcement being done, we will go ahead and go to council members. Councilmember Kinich.
Thank you, Madam President. I want to thank the people of Denver for their vote in favor of many of the items referred by this council, but in particular, I wanted to just provide a few updates on 2B to reduce homelessness. I know that this is a topic that we heard a lot of public comments about tonight. And, these informational updates are not necessarily in direct response to those testimonies, but they do overlap in terms of the interests people have. So as a reminder, the ordinance requires a 1-year implementation plan be finalized by January 31st. And so here's how this will work.
Here's how this is going to work.
Just today,
we also passed 2G, so we're going to crawl up your ass every week going forward.
The existing housing
but y'all didn't see that coming, did you?
Not counting 2B. So they're in the process of taking all that feedback. They'll revise that plan. And then what they're going to do is release a draft addendum to the plan, and that will be on the city's website. So if you go to denvergov.org/housing, and then you go to about, you'll see when it's available, it will be posted there. All of your council members will all get that information, and I'm sure we'll all share it with our constituents. And the community will have the opportunity to give input on the use of those dollars. Reminder, the voter approval was for 40 million, but in fact, we know that 2021 is likely to be a more modest year. So we will probably be programming something in the mid-30 range, $30 million range. And just as a quick reminder, we do have more than 2,000 people a night choosing shelter in Denver. So we do have those living on the streets, but we have more than 2,000 people living in shelter. Right now,
that means you're failing 75% of the community.
Social distancing, and it is working. The rate of COVID infection among those experiencing homelessness is actually lower.
How do you know? How many of them are you testing? Based on what?
If those
you made those numbers
are
up.
no longer available, the 2B dollars will step in. So for those who've been asking questions about why spending money on shelter, because we do have people who are choosing to stay safe from the elements and whose lives are being saved in a variety of settings, including 24-hour shelter. So if those dollars are not needed for that purpose, because federal dollars will continue, then more can be spent on the other options. There is an estimate that the dollars will provide 500 people with housing. We can have a big debate about methodology, but the short story is that rental assistance that goes with a person along with services is working to house people today in Denver.
Oh, you just pissed me off.
The estimate is that in 2021, at least 500 people, again, and that could grow if we don't need those dollars for some of the things that the federal funds are paying for today. And then we have funding that could be available for other types of interventions. Outreach to those on the street. So your priorities for housing, Denver is using a housing first model. These dollars will be primarily focused on permanent housing in years 2 through 10, building new housing faster than we would have otherwise and making it more units than we would have otherwise.
Mine too, Shannon.
But we know construction takes time, which is why in 2021, the proposal is to immediately use those dollars for some rental assistance to get people housed in existing units. So the plan has space for all of these strategies in it, and your input will be used. And then just a reminder, the way our budget works, the budget we're going to be debating tonight does not include the 2B dollars because that election hasn't even been certified yet. But what will happen is in early 2021, this council will see a budget, what we call a supplemental, to program those dollars. So first will come the plan, then will come the supplemental. Community input will be taken. And so folks can either, stay in touch with my office.
I don't know about you, Shannon, but I got some input.
Website. And I think that what we will see is dramatic investments being made in 2021 to help those who are unhoused. In addition to the existing funding we've set aside.
You just woke up the entire audience.
So together, just to give you a sense of scale, our housing fund.
To give you a sense of scale, y'all, this bitch wants to run for mayor.
2030,
mayor
should be approaching the range of $750 million. $750 million by 2030, depending a little bit on the economy, depending a little bit on how.
What you need to do is take a look at the 4,000 you are failing to serve and give us a plan for how you intend to get them through the winter.
Address these issues, and I just think that it bears underlining that property tax, marijuana tax, and now a sales tax, all working together with developer fees to fund a very sizable investment. And so just a minute to celebrate before we get into more debate over other new topics. But in this case, we're going to be making some huge strides. So thank you to my colleagues and to the people of Denver.
Calderon.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kinich, and congratulations as well to you, but the rest of our colleagues as well who ran 8 other
a circle jerk
initiatives.
Who saw that coming tonight, y'all?
As well last Tuesday. Councilwoman,
who doesn't love a good circle jerk?
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to remind people who live in Southeast Denver that tomorrow night from 5:30 till 7, we're having a virtual community meeting discussing creating mobility hubs at the Yale Light Rail Station and the Southmore Light Rail Station. So please join us if you're interested. You can get more information from my website or check in with me via email or phone, and I'll give you the information to attend the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Hines?
Kinich?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I also want to extend some of the comments that Councilmember Kinich made just a few minutes ago. I won't go back over all the full range of comments
I
that
wish
she made,
you would.
but,
I'm trying so hard to talk her into it.
Everyone aware that,
but I also want Chantel from the RTD. Oh gosh, I love her so hard. She's amazing. I would love to have her take Chris Herndon's seat in for District 8. And she and Candy are friends, and that woman is fire. I love Chantel.
I know there has been strong
if ever you're lucky enough to see her in there, I'll make sure to point her out.
In District 9,
I will.
Both at the Coliseum and at Blair Caldwell Library. Frankly, there's strong resistance in
my name's MK, by the way,
for these 2 proposed sites as well. I believe that the best long-term solution for people experiencing homelessness is housing with wraparound
Sorry, I'm deaf in this
services.
ear, and it can get no, not at all. I'm not. It's just hard between the mask and the reverb. Sometimes I hear again.
More affordable housing, including advocating to our state counterparts for a repeal of the legislation.
That's all right. I'm here every week, so sometimes you can. Everybody just calls me mom.
It being safe open spaces is the best of our less than ideal options.
Nice to meet you. I'm just glad to have someone friendly over here who guarded my water bottle that I left last week.
And so
I appreciate that.
In Denver. They are a critical tool in our toolbox that we must learn to use effectively, even if they aren't our first choice. These spaces provide clean transitional housing and wraparound services and a limited location that is staffed 24/7 for social services, safety, and hygiene. I would encourage all of you to learn more about what these sites are and how they are so different from what we have experienced over these last several months and frankly years in District 10. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Hines. Councilwoman Sedabaka?
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to remind people, last week we mentioned that if you needed a turkey or a holiday dinner, to sign up at Epworth Church for that. We now have a new donor in GES that is specifically giving away 100 turkeys to residents of Glowville, Elyria, or Swansea. And so if you are interested, if you need a turkey, please go on our Facebook and sign up on the Google form there, or email our office or call our office. Our email is district9@denvergov.org, and we will get you on that list. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Herndon.
Thank you, Madam President. Along the spirit with Councilwoman Kinich, I wanted to thank the voters for their support of 2J. And for those of you who have questions, and I've received questions from individuals already. One, as the election has not been certified, it will take effect January 1. But we already have on the Denver Animal Protection website the steps that
you're welcome to come over here. I turned it down so there wouldn't be reverb.
In order to get the pit bull permit. So you could just Google Denver Animal Protection and go to the city.
I'm Protest Mom on Twitter.
Go to Denver Animal Protection. You get all the information that you need for that. And I also just want to take a moment because we have certainly recognized several individuals who are part of that. But a name that has not been spoken of that you cannot state about this is Carly.
Yeah, they never show up. Candy, unfortunately, is the only one who does show up, and she doesn't show up. She didn't show up tonight because they were exposed and have to quarantine for another week.
Just as bright as her
so, because she's out with the people, of course, it's going to happen. But with critical mass outside, people don't usually start showing up until like 6:30 because they'll hang out, they'll have dinner. 6:30 is when people start migrating inside. because the first hour is just a circle jerk where they're all like, we're going to acknowledge all the dead white men who came before.
This could not have been possible without Carla as well. And Carla, this one is so
well, the council people don't come, but all of the protesters outside, I encourage them to show up. And because all of the council people, their people watch my stream. So my live stream. So I'm live streaming this with all my commentary. And all of the city council people, they have their employees, their aides, watch and see if we say anything. And then to make it easy for them, I tag them whenever I cuss them out. So the more mayhem I can get behind the camera, the better. But
you can visit my Facebook
that usually doesn't start until after people are fed.
Information, or you can email arthur.gilkinson@denvergov.org. And also, if you'd like more information, you can email my office, districtone@denvergov.org, and we will respond with how to sign up to speak in favor of this initiative and also how to write a letter of support. Once again, that's next Monday, November 16th at 5:30 virtually. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sandoval. Councilwoman Ortega.
Thank you, Madam President. Along the lines of my colleagues who have talked about some of the initiatives or charter changes that passed, I wanted to just let you all know that I've already been working with the City Attorney's Office on the professional services ordinance that will follow. And we're looking at scheduling some time with our policy committee and then looking at bringing it to the appropriate committee of council to move a draft ordinance forward. I want to get your thoughts and input. I've put some thoughts on paper, have been having some back and forth conversations with the City Attorney's Office, and we'll have a draft before you when we get scheduled to come to the policy committee. Secondly, I just wanted to mention that the Department of Transportation Advisory Board also passed and have reached out to Ulysses Cluckley's office to find out, what categories they're looking at appointing, so that as we all begin to think about who the people are we might want to recommend, because each one of us has an appointment as well, we'd like to do that in collaboration to ensure that we're representing diversity of the different types of transportation, but also ethnic and economic diversity across our city. So we have some of that information to share and push out to you. We want to do that so that you can be thoughtful about who you might want to appoint, so that we're trying to cover that, those issues across the board. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Cashman.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I'd also like to thank the voters of Denver for their support of 2H, which removed restrictions of a state law, Senate Bill 152.
This guy's the worst. He's so cool.
Placed barriers on the discussion of how we bridge the digital divide that has about 20% of our city, most of all in our traditionally underserved neighborhoods, from having
it's just hard,
regular access to
someone
broadband services.
In one of these seats that actually has power to still be mean, it's just so unnecessary.
2H came with no particular solution, no price tag, but it does clear the runway for a full discussion of how we make sure that our students and our
I was watching a committee meeting once, and he told Candy that she needed to raise her hand when she had a question.
Telehealth services have access.
I know. I didn't hear this. I've never heard him say that to anybody else. That was one of the Wednesday committee meetings.
Discussion unfolding in the coming months. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman Cashman. Councilwoman Sawyer.
Thanks so much, Madam President. I also just want to thank the voters for supporting both of my initiatives. The first one that Councilwoman Zita and I put together, 2E, which is council approval of mayoral appointees.
That's why I wanted to turn it on. If all the people outside protesting come in,
which is
I'll turn it back up and then turn it on.
Language, and already working on some updates to the charter and our ordinances to do some remote meetings policies and things like that. So anyone who's got questions, feel free to reach out to Denver Council 5 at denvergov.org. Happy to chat about that, and stay tuned for more information. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. Along with folks thanking the voters, I wanted to inject a note of thanks and congratulations to Clerk and Recorder's Office and Clerk Lopez for an election that seems to have run flawlessly, and I think is a model for the nation, not just Denver, but the state of Colorado with our mail-in balloting that works. And it's distressing to see what's going on around the country while questioning this, when we've been doing this for, about 6-7 years now.
What you mean, wait, that's the Secretary of State. You had nothing to do with it. You wanted to tear apart the election fund.
Crew should be congratulated for that.
What they need to be congratulated for is resisting your efforts to mess with it.
Herndon, we have you back up.
Yes, Madam President, apologies. One more thing I wanted to note. For the Land Use, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee tomorrow, we are continuing the conversation on individual portions of the group living. I had announced that land use would be starting at 10 a.m. Unfortunately, we didn't properly notify it. So the notification that came out at the end of the week said 10:30, and we did not catch that in time for the 48-hour to amend it. So we will be starting at 10:30 tomorrow, and we will spend the entire committee speaking to the group living portion when it comes to community correction. So I want to make sure I announced 10 a.m. It'll actually be
I want to make sure y'all know I'm going to be there at 10 a.m.
To my colleagues, you
I'm going to
should
start
have
the
received
stream
an email
then.
from CPD with some of the slides. I will encourage them to move through it a little bit more quickly since we have less time. So there's as much time as possible for council members to ask their questions and to share their thoughts from this particular portion of group living.
And I'll be live streaming so that y'all don't miss any of the comments that they're going to make or the questions they're going to ask about group living.
Just want to remind folks that over the weekend, our Home by 10 p.m. initiative went in. Our COVID rates continue to rise in the city, and so we're asking folks to severely limit.
Could you possibly ask the police to limit the sweeps as well?
From 10 p.m.
Because
to 5 a.m. each day.
Doesn't that literally spreads COVID? Literally.
And taking all of the health and safety precautions to lower the COVID rates. And then also want
you're
to
continuing the
send,
sweeps.
Congratulations to our President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris. This is a historic time for our democracy. And we had patience. We allowed our votes to be counted. And as Americans, we trust in our democratic process and the integrity of our electoral system. And we saw a record turnout across the nation and in Denver. And on a personal note, as a woman and a mom with 2 daughters, I'm elated to finally see a woman and a woman of color in the White House. And so
you can say you voted for a black person and therefore you're not racist, as you continue to say absolutely racist things to Candace Baca. Is that why?
And
plausible deniability? That's not how it works.
With our White House, we know that this election brings new hope, compassion, and collaboration.
That's right.
And so appreciate all of the voters in Denver and your commitment to our democratic process. Seeing no other announcements, there are no presentations. There are
no other announcement. I have an announcement.
No proclamations.
Y'all are the worst.
Council will now vote.
You're going to lose your jobs, all of you except Candy.
The mayor's proposed 2021 budget. Councilmember Black, we need a motion to adopt, please.
They're full of it. I hate everybody except your wife, KerrieJoy.
Haven't learned that yet. I move that the mayor's proposed 2021 budget be adopted.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Comments from members of council? Seeing, Councilwoman Ortega.
This is true.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I just wanted to thank my colleagues for putting together some thoughtful recommendations that
I'm going to completely ignore.
Like they were going to have to be done via amendments to the budget, but to the mayor's credit, he found a way to
fund the vast majority of those items that council had identified.
Which council? But
I
not
think
Candy.
that speaks a lot to the importance of trying to collaborate and make
Are you
sure
talking
that,
about this? Did they
those
find
issues
this?
that had been identified as priorities by many people from our community.
Or are you just going to keep killing black people till the budget balances?
That we get on Monday nights and through emails are moving the needle way far down the road, well beyond what we've been doing with the COVID dollars that have been in play, trying to ensure that we're addressing many of the needs of our vulnerable communities. So I just want to say congratulations to everybody on
what needs?
Some great work.
What needs have you addressed?
Process.
I've been here every week.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Kniech.
Thank you, Madam President. There is no question that the budget process is always a bear, and it was a really tougher bear this year. You know, I appreciate Councilwoman Ortega's
was it harder this year to ignore the unhoused than in years past?
Council input after the draft budget was released. Personally, I am excited that our permanent restrooms will be open, that our citizen oversight board will have a full-time staffer to help them with their police accountability work. And
police accountability work. What kind of police accountability work are they doing?
Program in 2021 to reach more than the 0.26% of eligible calls that they're taking now. We have a lot of room to reach a larger number of calls. And I really appreciate working with Councilwoman Gilmore and Councilwoman Sedabaka on some of those conversations. But I also just want to—
You need to be thanking the good dear Lord that you get to sit and breathe the same air as Candy Sedabaka. You aren't qualified to.
Those final negotiations are not the only impact this council had on this budget.
No,
there were many items that we advocated.
Let me tell you about the impact you had. You woke my ass up
to the draft budget
and got me here on Mondays permanently.
And I just want to highlight a couple of those, which is participatory budgeting has been a priority. It was in this year's budget and delayed implementation, and it might have been an attractive thing to cut for next year, and it wasn't cut. The administration worked with us to keep that in this budget. We didn't have to fight for it, and what it will mean is that several neighborhoods that have had neighborhood plans identifying ways that they want to be able to retain sustainability for their community and retain residents will have some dollars to vote on democratically for projects that can help implement those plans.
I love these comments, you guys. Please keep them coming so I can put them on the screen.
To vote on projects to advance mobility and safety. So those really important dollars were in this draft budget from day one. Other important priorities like funding for staffing to do resident prioritization. We have a policy we've been working on for quite some time. It wasn't quite ready yet to come to council or to be implemented, but the funding is there for the staff and the computer system to make sure that as we build new affordable housing, we can prioritize.
Kerrie Joy, you'll have to correct me. Sometimes even I don't speak white lady nonsense, but this is what I think she just said, right?
We're in this draft budget. In addition to, frankly, just some really important, tough work to keep basic services going during this time. And so I do want to thank the agencies that worked on those items, both before the first draft, as well as those agencies that worked with us in these final changes, and the budget office. It is not an easy year, but this budget did protect funding for housing and homelessness in a way that it was not able to protect all city services, and we talked already about some expansions that are coming. So just want to thank my colleagues for that work that you all did before that first draft budget, as well as since then. And I feel very proud of our ability to continue to govern during such a difficult financial time. So I will be supporting this budget tonight. Thank you.
I bet you will, you bootlicking bitch.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kniech. And seeing no other hands raised, I'll go ahead and offer my comments. You know, as Denver City Council, we began to prepare for the 2021 budget process in July of this year through setting up the Budget and Policy Committee. Through our the committee, but then also with our budget and policy retreat that we held in July of 2021, we came together and determined 6 overarching budget priorities that we committed to pursue together through a racial equity lens. And in a year that we were met with a global
Can't wait for your run at mayor,
a civil rights movement, and economic
I'm gonna have fun with that.
That this city's general fund has never seen or had to face shortfalls like we have, Denver City Council carried forward the voices and the values of equity from our constituents in our budget hearings and in our 2021 budget requests. Through our budget hearing process, we heard from 21 city agencies. We had 3 dedicated council budget working sessions, and we listened to our constituents through public listening sessions, weekly public comment, and our public hearing that we held last week on the budget. And this council working together, we were able to secure close to $5.2 million to fund important budget priorities. That's $1 million more.
But you could not find.
Secure last year in some of the best economic times.
You found $3.5 million for convention center operations in the middle of a pandemic where conventions won't be happening. But you could not find $300,000 for trash collection
more to accomplish together
for the Unhoused.
I want to take that time and celebrate this success as well, and would also
not a success.
like to acknowledge Mayor Hancock and his administration for coming
It's a
together
circle jerk. You
and
haven't really missed
compromising
anything yet.
with council.
They're patting themselves on the back for finding money in the budget to solve big priorities like sweeps.
Also humbly thanking our amazing and resilient city employees.
Trigger warning, quick.
Continue to serve every single day to help our residents and neighborhoods.
We got to be real careful about this. A lot of Black leaders have very strong feelings against it.
And so we thank you for that work as well to our
Who
city
to talk to? I just want to be clear, because if I'm going to do this, I need to know who I'm going to answer
Madam
to.
Secretary, roll call on the motion to adopt the mayor's proposed 2021 budget, please.
Okay.
And Dale, because I didn't want to use it either, but they think that we need to use it
Black.
in order to get really people's attention.
Okay.
So
trigger warning here, but Joel at PSL says that it's important that we share, so we're going to share. Just to remind you. Yes, sir. Oh, thank you. So nice to meet you. Have a good night.
Hi.
Brendan?
They're not police, they're sheriff.
Hi. Cashner?
That would be aye.
So by the way, it's good to be nice to these guys. They work for the sheriff's office. They're not police. And all of them do rotations in the prison. So if you know someone on the inside and they need assistance or they're not being treated well, that's who you call.
Aye. Torrance? Yes.
Can't keep this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam
I will stick it. I will continue to stick it up. I know how strongly you feel about this, and I'll continue to stick this up and remind everybody.
Secretary, please close the voting and announce the results.
2 numbers at the bottom.
1 nay, 12 ayes.
St. Mary's Hospital, which is really
12 ayes. The
Oh my
mayor's
God, okay.
proposed 2021 budget has been adopted.
Even though they have to.
Madam Secretary, please read the bills for
We
introduction.
will make those demands and make them clear. You all right?
Yeah.
No, you don't have to lie to me.
From Finance and Governance.
It's a lot.
2011-81, a bill for
That's a lot.
ordinance establishing a new fund in the Public Health Special Revenue Fund series for the Brian White
They're going to vote
Assessment
on
IGA Fund
codifying the mayor's
appropriating budget
Republican
in the
budget.
fund.
Kenich is going to remind us that she's running for mayor in 2023, trying to put herself out there as the biggest
a bill for an ordinance.
And
the zoning
those are the
classification
main
for
things.
2201
And also there's
Arapahoe
another
Street,
measure
5
coming
points.
up tonight that Colorado Freedom Fund and the
a bill
CIU has
for
been
an
working on.
ordinance changing the
And
zoning classification for
I'm really
1055
hopeful that
Locust
Elizabeth Epps
Street in
will
Montclair.
show up and speak on it. Always, I'm here for her, no matter what she
A bill
does.
for an ordinance
But it would
relinquishing the
effectively
easement reserved in ordinance number
give judges more discretion to get rid of the dollar bill. Because there's a law right now that binds them saying like you have to, for like a second multiple offense, you have to charge something. They can't, there's no personal recognizance. So with that, we're gonna undo the rule that makes that a thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And from
Hopefully.
safety,
So
housing, education,
it goes
and
up for First
homelessness,
Amendment tonight. If it's
2011-41,
accepted, then it goes to the full
a
floor
bill for
vote
an
next
ordinance
week to go
discontinuing
to
the
be passed
Denver
into law.
Welfare Reform Board
So yeah,
and
caring
repealing
about local, this
ordinance
stuff
number
matters. Like
673,
I know
series
it's not sexy, but that's why I try to show up here and be all like whoop whoop, call out the football game, curse a whole lot, and be like, get in it, get fucking in it.
Violations
Because
of the
this is
Denver
where
Revised
change happens,
Municipal Code,
whether we like it or not.
modifying the penalty for Class
Feel
1
for you, you're
violations
doing
and
good stuff
making
and good work.
conforming
Don't bring
amendments to
yourself out now that
DRMC
you've been
section
away
referencing
and finally
1
got
through
yourself up together.
13E for non-criminal violations.
I know, buddy.
And 2011-79, a bill for
I
an
see you, I
ordinance
see how much
repealing
you care, I see
section
what you do,
of
and I
Article
wouldn't be
2
doing my
of
job if I
Chapter
didn't tell you
14
that I
of the
love you
Denver
and
Revised
don't want you
Municipal
to.
Code concerning a person's right to
We need to do
a
stuff that gets you out of the
personal
bad place that not that puts you in it so hard that
Thank you, Madam
you can't get out.
Secretary. Council members, this is your last opportunity to call out an item. Council Member Black, will you please make the motions for us this evening?
No, I'm pretty
Yes,
good at
I
the
will,
moment.
Madam
We're
President.
just streaming and making sure that the
Thank you.
people who don't
Now
have
I'll do a
access to
recap
Zoom
under
or a
resolutions.
television, local
Councilmember
television,
Sadabaka
because
has
that
called
costs
out
money too.
resolutions
So we stream everything on social
1174
media.
and 1144 for questions. Under bills
Thanks
for
so much. What's
introduction,
your
no
name?
items have been called
Zach?
out.
It's nice to
Under
meet you.
bills for final consideration, no items have been called out.
Yes.
Under pending, no items have been called out. The first item up is Council Resolution
Ooh,
1174.
that would be real
Council
cool.
Member Sadabaka, please go ahead with your
Thank you,
question.
Madam President. Is there anybody
Yeah.
here who can speak to the Summer
Yes.
Scholars Program?
If you want to sign up, I can set up for you guys to sign up.
My name is
Love
Janine
that.
Ford.
Yeah,
I'm
that'd be
here
cool.
to answer
Thank
questions.
Hi, Janine. I am just curious about the modification during COVID. This
I love it.
contract
Thank
is
you, Zach.
for
I'm coming in
after-school recreation programs and swim lessons. And with recreation centers closed and likely not a lot of swimming happening, I'm curious about the modification.
Sure. So their fiscal year that they do their invoicing for us, we do it from the school year of September 1st.
How are you just hearing about Kawan Charles? We've been tweeting about him all day long, Carrie.
First.
Well, you probably did that in the name of self-care, so you take care of yourself,
The
Carrie.
billing was from the after-school program during the school year up until the point of, the COVID, when COVID hit, basically, and then they had some modified programming within it. The swim lessons they're not run through Denver Parks and Recreation. They actually provide like hired staff and swim lessons at high schools. Although it did not run this summer due to COVID. So basically the money that we're asking for, because was it 117,416 is basically the modified amount, because it should have been 125,500 that we would have been paying out.
So the what is the 117 paying for?
The 117 is paying for the after-school program from August 2019 through March of 2020, plus the modified virtual programming that they did for the remainder of the school year, and some of that during the summer break.
Is it possible for you to follow up with some details about how that breaks down? We know some folks who were in Summer Scholars and program was discontinued.
Sorry, I don't hear you.
But they don't recall getting services prior to March. So just want to double check that. If you can send over information, that would be helpful.
Okay, I will reach out to them and get that information for you.
Thank you very much.
And then, do you know really quickly?
Oh, I'm so sorry. I only have one ear that works, so.
I guess district or that type of thing that they were in, because their locations change based on their funding year and what's if something gets dropped because their grants fund expired, things like that, and so their locations have a tendency to revolve based on their grant funding.
Oh, Council Member, there you go.
Are there particular ones that stopped that you're thinking of?
I I think there was, trying to remember, I think, was it Whittier that was termed, and I think Harrington and Columbine, which have been longstandings, that were ending their funding.
So that
I'd have to double check with them.
Yeah, those are all in my district, and so that might be why we're hearing it. So a detailed breakdown of what the money got spent on, that would be helpful. And you're
By the way, if you are
confirming that this is
outside,
a
you need to come
retroactive
inside during the
payment.
recess and sign up for public comment. There's a hearing tonight. Let's make it fun.
This is a bill that we owe them at this point in time. Once it's paid, the contract is expired and ended.
And do we typically approve as city council? Do we typically approve after the grant is spent or before?
It's typically before. Problem is we had an issue back in 2015 when this grant or this contract was originally brought on or renewed. The invoice for the 2014 actually got paid out of the new contract, and that's why we have a shortage right now. And so that's why we're asking City Council to approve the 117,416 at this point in time to pay for services rendered due to the error back in 2015.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Janine, and thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Next item up.
I hate to do this. So if y'all were not already aware of Kawan Charles, Bobby Charles was reported missing on October 30th, 2020. His mother and father called 911.
Get clarification. I was looking through the presentation.
Did not issue Amber Alert, never looked for him.
That was uploaded in Granicus. And the presentation slide 5.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Said that the contract was for $4.5 million. It says that this is a $4 million contract. But then it also says that the $4.5 million would only serve 200 individuals. And that breaks down to over $22,000.
I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Serving. And so I just wanted to get some clarity on the numbers and understand if those numbers were correct.
I think that's it. Yes.
Great.
Thank
We
you.
have James
You didn't have to do that. I really appreciate
here
it.
to help answer his questions.
Is she not here?
Thank you, Councilwoman, for that question. That's correct. It did get adjusted down to 4 million.
The mic is not hot, but
that translates per person as slightly lower.
okay.
But it does serve that number of people. We will still serve at least 200 households, and it does translate to 20,000 per household.
And so when you,
I'm expecting the others. Are there still people outside?
Devote $20,000.
Okay, I figured they'd be coming up soon.
Are we
It's good
able to see as council the breakdown of how those dollars are spent? Like, what does that $20,000 pay for each individual?
Right. So it includes a real comprehensive package, including rental assistance, which will be time limited. So that's up to 24 months. Damage deposits, security deposits versus last month's rent, and then comprehensive services with collaborative partnerships. So case management, vocational and educational, integrated primary and behavioral health care, peer navigation, housing navigation.
And with those, do we have success rates, or how do we actually measure success?
Yes, we do have targets in terms of retention of housing and retention of permanent housing. So the ultimate outcome, of course, is retention of permanent housing. And then because it's time limited, the supportive services eventually will, and the rental assistance will drop off. So then the measure is households' ability to self-sustain without the assistance.
Awesome. If it's possible,
Candy's
can
just
you
like
send
pressing
me
and
more
lovely
data
she always does.
after this about how that breaks down per individual with numbers connected to it? $20,000 per individual to get someone back into housing seems pretty reasonable to me and fits along with what we talked about last week with master leasing properties. And so I'm curious about the exact numbers for each of those sections and would love to see that data. But that's it for my questions. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, James. Thank you, Councilwoman. That concludes the items to be called out. Any bills for introduction are ordered published. Council members, remember, this is a consent or block vote, and you will need to vote aye. Otherwise, this is your last chance to call out an item for a separate vote. Councilmember Black, will you please put the resolutions for adoption and the bills on final consideration for final passage on the floor?
I move that resolutions be adopted and bills on final consideration be placed upon final consideration and do pass in a block for the following items: 1175, 1176, 1160, 1161, 1180, 1193, 1115, 1148, 1152, 1154, 1155, 1156, 1157, 1158, 1173, 1174, 1081, 1144, 1235, 1237, 1059, 1143, and 1129.
Thank you. It has been moved and seconded. Madam Secretary, roll call.
Black,
Aye.
Cidabaca,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Flynn,
Aye.
Herndon,
Aye.
Hine,
Aye.
Cashman,
Aye.
Kinich,
Aye.
Ortega,
Aye.
Sandoval,
Aye.
Sawyer,
Aye.
Torres.
Aye.
Madam President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. The resolutions have been adopted and the bills have been placed upon final consideration and do pass. The pre-recess announcement. Tonight, there will be a required public hearing on Council Bill 966, changing the zoning classification for 4407, 4501, 4505, 4601, and 4595 West Alameda Avenue, and a combined required public hearing on Council Bill 1027, relating to the Denver Zoning Code to establish the Urban Edge Single Unit B1 Zone District, and Council Bill 1028, changing the zoning classification for multiple properties in Chaffee Park. Anyone wishing to speak on any of these matters must go online to sign up during the recess of council. If there are no objections from members of council, we will take a 10-minute recess. Council members, please remember to turn off your cameras and mute your microphones, and we will return at 6:27 p.m.
Okay, so the link that I just posted here in the comments for everyone watching, it's open. That is, you click this now because once recess is over, your opportunity to speak is gone. Go ahead and click that link and register for public comment on the hearing that's coming up. You really don't, I don't know if you've been listening to public comments, but you don't have to be educated on anything to speak. And you don't necessarily have to stay on topic, just saying. If you wanted to, I don't know, click that link, register, and remind everyone that it's snowing and that maybe they need to focus on calling DPD to stop the sweep that's supposed to be happening in the morning. Theoretically, you could do that. If you wanted to say, hey, Jolyn Clark, fuck off, theoretically, you could do that. I mean, you're not supposed to use profanity, but I haven't actually fully tested their emergency broadcast system yet. I bet they don't have one. So there are all kinds of opportunities for civil disobedience. This is an opportunity to make your own rule to obey. Just saying. There's the link right there. So if you want to sign up for public comment, what I was just saying is they're about to have a public hearing. Theoretically, You don't have to speak to what the hearing's about. This is an opportunity. If you sign up on their little iPad over there and make a comment, you can say anything you want. Might be a good time to remind them that it's snowing, and they need to call the mayor and tell them to stop the sweep tomorrow. It's just a thought, because they just spent 20 minutes in a circle jerk congratulating themselves on finding extra money to hit the main budget priorities for the year. None of the money they found, by the way, in processes over recent weeks has found a damn dime for the unhoused. So just a thought. Who cares? It's about a zoning thing. Once again, talking about property and not people. Hear that? Talking about property and not people. I have a problem with that. Do you have a problem with that? I have a problem with that.
Fucking real estate developers.
That's what I'm saying. But if you want to run for mayor, you got to be friends with some real estate developers, right, Kniech? She all but announced her mayoral bid tonight. I know, I'm disgusted too. What's funny is that the guards that were sitting behind me, they were swapping out, and they were like, the only one qualified to run is Candy. And I'm like, that is bad when the guards are making that comment. I'm like, the mic's hot. They're like, I don't care. I know, right? That is an endorsement. I had to text Candy that one. I'm like, let me tell you, just happened.
Okay, but we should announce it now so that it gives you time to, attack.
Yeah. I'm gonna have fun with that. I know how you plan to get through the winter. I gotta plans my own. Hopefully.
Do you think any of these pieces of shit vote against the PR stuff next week?
No, I don't. But I also think that if we can get people to show up, because they think they're getting off easy tonight. They think everybody who would care about protesting is at the car rally in Aurora, which tells you they don't understand anything about who's signing up for what or who's showing up for what. I'm going to share that link real quick with the moms.
Thank God, like a Pfizer was smart enough not to say shit last week.
Right?
Thank you.
Oh my God, thank you for real. Just imagine.
Thank you for not fucking.
Oh, they could have swung it the wrong way. You're so right.
And they did.
They knew. Well, they also know that like it could still go wrong 20 ways from Sunday too, but. No.
I prefer that as a
Exactly. You would think. There is that. The small things we're grateful for. This turned out pretty good, Nikki.
Yeah. I showed up with a bunch of stuff.
Good. There were like 20 people when I came.
I'm leaving because somebody, just as everyone was packing up, came with a whole carload of stuff, and I'm taking home a new load of stuff.
Yay. I mean, so this is life. Let me tell you about my front porch, my side porch, my back porch.
I removed some things from your front porch.
Yeah. I need someone to come remove the bags of sand from my front porch because I forget about them. And then I'll bring them to the side and then new sand will appear. So it's.
Well, I took 2 of those bags.
Oh, thank you. Good.
So
good.
I don't know if they're going to end up back there or not. But.
I said, well, you know what? Well, I got a big old porch. It'll be fine. I got a back shed. I'm happy to fill it. It's good.
Yeah. So I painted out lots of stuff.
Yeah. Hey guys, so since you're here, let me tell you something I just told them. Just a thought, you don't have to do it, but there's a public hearing about rezoning property. Theoretically though, you can say whatever you want. So why not go sign up? You could like remind them that it's snowing in the unhoused and why are we talking about people instead of property? It's just a thought. You could do it. And you could do it with your mask on and you don't have to live here. I like to say I'm following the process. You just didn't say, you might want to change your rule, Cashman. I know how much you like process. I'm sorry? So you want to fill her in, Paul? Oh, sorry. I thought you were leaning around like you were going to tell her. So what's been happening tonight so far? The first day had a gigantic circle jerk about, we found all the money to fill the priorities in the budget that we wanted to fill. And I'm like, great. But yet you found nothing for the unhoused. Once again, telling us what their priorities are. Believe them. Then Kanish, tried to address, we're doing so much for the unhoused, and spoke about that for about 20 minutes, which was stupid. I'm not responding to the public input from today or other days, but I just think it's really important that the public know. I mean, it was so dumb. It was so dumb. And in that pitch to talk about how much she has been doing for the unhoused, which all includes and is limited to affordable housing, she all but announced her mayoral run. Yeah, she's positioning herself. I know this game. She's positioning herself for a mayoral run. We're going to nip that in the bud. And what was amazing is that two of the guards behind me were like, the only person qualified to run is Candy. I'm like, the mic's hot, dude. They're like, we don't care. That says something. Oh.
We have two public hearings tonight. Speakers should begin their remarks by telling the council their names and cities of residence, and if they feel comfortable doing so, their home addresses. When called upon, please wait until our meeting host promotes you to speaker. When you are promoted, your screen will flash and say reconnecting to meeting. Please do not leave the meeting. You will be reconnected and will need to turn on your camera if you have one and your microphone. If you have signed up to answer questions only, state your name and note that you're available for questions of council. Speakers will have 3 minutes. There is no yielding of time. You will see your time flash on the screen when you have 30 seconds left. Speakers must stay on the topic of the hearing and must direct their comments to the council members. Please refrain from profane or obscene speech. Direct your comments to council as a whole, and please refrain from individual or personal attacks. Councilmember Black, will you please put Council Bill 966 on the floor for passage?
Yes, Madam President, I move that Council Bill 20-0966 be placed upon final consideration and do pass.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded by Councilman Herndon. The required public hearing for Council Bill 20-0966 is open. May we please have the staff report?
Thank you, Madam President. This is James Van Hooser with CPD. Are you able to hear me and also see the PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, James.
Thank you. Before you today, we have a requested rezoning at 4407, 4501, 4505, 4595, and 4601 West Alameda Avenue. The request is to go from PUD 550 and ESUDX to the EMX3 zone district. The property in question is located in Council District 3 in the Barnum West neighborhood. The parcels are approximately 5.1 acres, and the EMX3 zone district allows for the townhouse, shop front, and general building forms with a max building height of 3 stories and 38 feet. The existing PUD 550 houses a 5-story senior living facility, as well as chapel and office and community center use. The ESUDX zone parcel is houses a single unit residence. The property to be rezoned is surrounded by other ESUDX properties, as well as some old code PUD and R2.
This is what civil disobedience looks like in a democracy.
EMX3 to the west, as well as ETUC. Those are 2-unit zone districts to the south. Existing land use on the parcel is multi-unit residential, as well as public, quasi-public uses and parking, as well as the single-unit residential for the one parcel. It is surrounded by other single-unit residential and public, quasi-public uses, with some commercial and retail to the west. It's also park and open space along the gulch to the north and west. Here's some photos of the existing structures on property, and here's some context photos. Around the photo in the bottom left is the parcel in question, as is the photo in the center right, and the other photos are for context in the neighborhood. So as informationally noticed, on June 4th, 2020, it went before Planning Board on September 16th, and Planning Board unanimously recommended council approval. Ludi Committee voted unanimously to move the application to the full city council. At this time, there have been 3 neighbor letters and 1 R&O letter of support that were in the council packet. We have had no letters of opposition on this proposed rezoning. For council to approve this rezoning, you'll need to find it consistent with the 5 criteria: consistency with adopted plans, uniformity of district regulations, that it furthers public health, safety, and welfare, that it meets the justifying circumstances, and has consistency with the neighborhood context, zone district purpose, and intent. We'll begin with consistency with adopted plans. There are 3 plans relevant to these parcels: Comp Plan 2040, Blueprint, which was adopted in 2019, and the Barnum West Neighborhood Plan, which was adopted in 1986. The proposed rezoning is consistent with a number of Comp Plan 2040 strategies and goals, including equitable, affordable, and inclusive goals, economically diverse and vibrant goals, and environmentally resilient goals.
Right now, we're talking about
moving on to
the
Blueprint Denver, looking at our future neighborhood context map. This the parcels are classified in the urban edge context. The urban edge neighborhood context contains elements of the suburban and urban context. Small multi-unit residential and commercial areas are typically embedded in 1 and 2 unit residential areas. The intent of the EMX3 zone district specifically is to promote safe, active, and pedestrian scale diverse areas and enhance the convenience and ease of walking, shopping, and public gathering within and around the city's neighborhoods.
Good.
Moving on to Blueprint Denver's future place type, these parcels are located in a community corridor within the urban edge context. Community corridors should have a balance of either residential and employment, residential and dining, or shopping,
during the day, other than
or
the
employment and
the
dining
nanny's
shopping
almost always,
uses.
always there. So just come in and
In a
hang out
community
till I get home.
corridor in the urban edge neighborhood context, recommended heights are generally up to 5 stories. Again, that's just the basic blueprint guidance. You would also need to pay attention to any small plan guidance that might have additional guidance on height. Looking at the Blueprint Denver future growth strategies, again, these parcels are considered community centers and corridors, which are anticipated to see around 25% of new housing growth and 20% of new employment growth by 2040.
Oh my God.
Most growth in the city is guided to regional centers, community centers, and corridors and select districts.
Pedestrian-friendly corridors, and y'all know what that means, right? That's some racist
residential
bullshit
areas.
right there.
And this community centers and corridors certainly falls within that anticipated growth.
So places where there's not grass.
Pedestrian-friendly means there are no homeless people sleeping there, so they literally build the doorways differently so that a person can fall asleep there. They literally do not build vents. Yep. Yeah, and it also means that more police will be stationed there, so that people will want to walk there. It's a promise made to business.
CPD undergoes the equity
Pedestrian-friendly
analysis
corridors is racist.
when a parcel is proposed to be rezoned at 5 acres or larger.
Yeah,
at
just like I call it out when I hear it. Pickleball.
This site
Who plays
did
pickleball?
undergo an equity analysis. Our first equity concept is access to opportunity.
I know.
So the basis for measuring access
Right,
opportunities.
but that's also, you're thinking of the police too. This is one of the guys that we call when our people are
Department of
in.
Public Health and Environment.
Yeah, who helps us out?
Proximity to high capacity and frequent transit, and access to centers and corridors.
I know.
Access to opportunity helps us to consider if we are making progress towards achieving the vision for complete neighborhoods across the city.
Was good.
Never forget.
It was a good
So
human being.
this subject property is an area with moderate access to opportunity. Scores well on access to community corridors and
But
centers.
we all are. I am
And
too.
scores
and you are
average
too.
on the
That's the
equity
thing. It's
index.
understanding it and working to dismantle it.
Measurements,
And some people just being
social
kind on the
determinants of
inside, that can
health,
break the whole
access to
thing down.
healthcare,
So,
child morbidity, and built
because let me tell you,
environment
when
subjects.
your ass is in there,
will
again,
score
this is the person
poorly
I'm
on
going to be
access
calling
to
saying, watch him
transit.
because he's got a big
I
mouth.
did want to caveat
And
that.
if he gets
that,
beat up, I need
the
to put him
access to-
beside.
Access to transit metric is specific to
Just saying.
rail
Except for the one that was 4 times the legal
there
limit
is a,
and got a 10-day
so while the
suspension.
subject site scores poorly on access to transit due to little proximity to light rail stations,
That's complete
the
bullshit.
RTD number 3 bus line has a stop directly in front of the property on Alameda Avenue.
'Cause I got fired for doing far less, doing a legally protected action, actually. And I got
The
fired.
second
Because I was expressing
equity
my
concept is
personal right.
vulnerability to involuntary displacement. Basis for measuring this metric is the vulnerability to displacement index developed by the Denver Economic Development and Opportunity Office. This combines data from median household income, percentage of people who rent, and percentage of population with less than a college degree. This application scores, the parcels associated with this application score a moderate to high vulnerability to involuntary displacement, scoring vulnerable in 2 of the 3 metrics. That's
Oh, of course I
median
did. I don't
household
care.
income
Wait till this
ratio
is me put my
and
feet up here
bachelor's
and
degree
like
attainment ratio.
give him the middle
And
finger
not
with this guy over here.
vulnerable on the 3rd metric of rental occupancy ratio.
Can I sit up there when
I appreciate you. Thank you.
The application identifies that the Salvation Army's housing components are paired with programs that provide career guidance and workforce training initiatives that allow those living on their property the opportunity to incrementally move their
Let's
way
not
up,
push it, but we don't want to
creating
get him
better
fired. Remember?
That's fair.
Okay.
Staff finds that this rezoning application has the potential to have a positive impact on the vulnerability to displacement metric.
No, I didn't see him up there. I don't know what
If
happened.
the Salvation Army is able to
I didn't see shit.
Didn't see shit, didn't do shit,
to
didn't know
continue with the
shit.
services.
Remember, that's
that
what
they have
that's what
outlined
this
in
police
their
department was saying
application.
about this young man. Say his name, Kawan Charles. And here's a number you can call to insist that the sheriff's office, sorry, not the sheriff's office, but their police department in Baldwin. Baldwin, can you believe he lives in a city called Baldwin? James Baldwin would hate that. You can call and demand that they open up an investigation.
19 units.
Please take a minute to do
Home size
that
diversity,
tonight.
ownership versus rental, housing costs, and the number of income restricted units. So this parcel is in an area that
I love her. Good.
scores not
She's
diverse
wonderful.
in 4 of the 5 metrics. There is diversity in home size, but
I mean,
housing diversity, tenure
it's
diversity,
just
housing
candy here.
costs,
We need
and
city
number of
council members like
affordable
that
units
here. But they also have Kaufman as the mayor, so what you gonna do?
are all
6 and 1 and,
Kaufman has almost no
not as diverse as
which is good. But he's got a Twitter account. We gotta take that shit away.
as desired.
I got interviewed by the news tonight. I might
The
be on Channel 4
application,
at some point.
the applicant states in the
Talking about what we were
application that
doing out there
proposed
as an act of
developments on the
protest.
site would create a greater mix and range of housing types in the Barnum West neighborhood, offering diversity in housing types with amenities attached and supported by programs through the Salvation Army. Staff concurs with this based just on the base zoning of EMX3. Multi-unit residential is an allowed use in the proposed zone district, and that can have a positive impact on the housing diversity by allowing an increase in the number of multi-unit residences in the area.
That seems a bit like whatever.
Well, anything
And
that
finally,
you do to spread the word about
jobs
something requires an
diversity.
element of performance.
Right.
So this map shows the mix of jobs depicted by color within the city, block groups with less than 100 total
Like you
jobs,
think money just
including
falls out of trees?
the block that this parcel
This
falls
is a
into
capitalist
have
system, y'all,
less
sorry.
than 100 jobs. So we're left out of the analysis. So there are not a whole lot of jobs located in this area. The proposed zone district, EMX3, allows for various commercial, office, and retail jobs. And increasing access to a range of many quality jobs enables people of different incomes and education levels to find employment and wealth building opportunities. As there are few jobs in this area, staff finds that this application could have a positive impact on the
As long
area's
as
job
we can respect
diversity
each other's way for
by
getting there, then that's
allowing
what
a zone
matters.
district
And instead of showing
that allows for more and different commercial and
was really good.
Good.
office retail uses.
So I need to install Zoom, right?
Moving on to consistency with the neighborhood plan. So the Barnum West neighborhood plan was adopted in 1986. Some of the key concepts within the plan were a desire to maintain residential zoning along West Alameda, develop setbacks and landscape policies for new developments within the neighborhood business zones, focus on developer owner occupied infill, and looking for traffic solutions. I wanted to call out attention to one specific recommendation in this plan that is now 34 years old. It shall be the recommendation to maintain the residential zoning along West Alameda Avenue and to selectively review any proposed developments which might be advantageous to neighborhood interests through the planned unit development approach. In the years since this plan guidance was initially developed, the city has moved away from a preference towards customized zoning and planned unit developments. The adoption of the 2010 Denver zoning code greatly increased the menu of available zone districts with the hope that customized zoning would be less necessary. And given the many more standard options now available that could be tailored best to community needs. Further, Blueprint Denver explicitly recommends against the use of custom zoning solutions such as PUDs when standard zone district solutions are available due to the problems that arise in consistency and efficiency of administration, among other challenges. So I just wanted to point out that that recommendation for a PUD approach would seem to be outdated with current plans. And while a mixed-use zone district is not a residential zone district, the EMX3 does not preclude the development of residential uses. And in fact, the applicant is, again, not germane to this rezoning application, but the applicant is proposing to develop for multi-unit residential in this area.
You know what? I would almost rather hear something about pickleball right now. I mean,
criteria
Jesus,
two,
there are people dying on the
there are
street,
no,
literally tonight, freezing, and we are
waivers
talking
or,
about building
special
properties years from now
considerations being
that
made. It would
none
be,
of them will be able to
standard zone
afford.
district
None of
being
them.
adopted, which is consistent with uniformity of district regulations. Number three, furthering of public health, safety, and welfare. This rezoning is consistent with this criteria primarily through implementation of adopted plans and allowing for mixed-use zone districts, which enable a mix of uses on one zone lot, which allows people to live, work, and play in the same area, reducing car trips and achieving improved public health outcomes.
Right.
For our justifying circumstances, a significant portion of the parcel has retained former chapter 59 zoning in the form of PUD 550. So that in and of itself is a justifying circumstance to get it into a new DZC standard zone district. And the applicants also note the change to such a degree
reducing
that the
car
proposed
trips.
rezoning
Have you guys looked at a map to see where this is located? Reducing car trips.
ESUTX parcel.
Why are you still so triggered by pickleball, KerrieJoy?
Of the proposed rezoning.
I feel that.
Staff also finds that the proposed rezoning is consistent with the neighborhood context, zone district purposes, and intents. The requested EMX zone district is within the urban edge neighborhood context. Again, which generally consists of single and 2-unit residentials with uses with small scale multi-unit residential uses and commercial areas typically embedded in the residential areas. And the general purpose for the mixed use zone districts as stated in the DZC is to promote safe, active, and pedestrian scale diverse areas through the use of building forms that clearly define and activate the public
Just to remind
street edge
everyone,
and ensure new
economic
development
recession,
contributes
global
positively to
pandemic,
established residential
eviction
neighborhood
crisis,
and character and improves the
below
transition
freezing
between
tonight, and
commercial
snowing.
development and adjacent residential
Once
neighborhoods.
again, we're talking
Also
about
wanted to take
our city
this
council is
moment
talking, is
to
patting themselves on the back. We're not doing a
clarify
goddamn
that,
thing.
this parcel
And is
would
now
be subject
talking
to
about rezoning
protected district
for
standards
developers. So I have enough
surrounded
money in their
by,
coffers to go run for mayor.
single unit and 2-unit
Joe and
zoning,
Clark,
so
fuck
keep that
you.
in mind as well. And again, talking about the EMX3 district specifically, it applies to areas or intersections served primarily by collector or arterial streets where building scale of 1 to 3 stories is desired. And the property to be rezoned is on Alameda Avenue, which is classified as a mixed use arterial street.
Arterial street, not on that side.
Articulated in the adopted plans are up to 5
Not on that
stories.
side of 25 it
again,
isn't.
the request here is only to go to 3. CBD recommends City Council approve the application based on the finding that all review criteria have been met. The applicants are available for questions, as am I. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, James. Council has not received any written testimony on Council Bill 966. And we have 6 individuals signed up to speak this evening. And I'd like to remind the speakers to please give us your name and city of residence. And
yeah, no, you just walk through the door and look for the lady and she'll.
Brent Bartels.
Madam President, Brent is with the applicant team. Perhaps he's not prepared to offer testimony this time, but
all right.
He should be on the line.
Yeah. Check in with the staff. We want to, at least since we're in the public hearing portion, have Brent come on up, because if he'll answer questions, we want to acknowledge him. And so we'll go ahead and try to get, it's not looking like we have Brent, so we'll go ahead and move on to Brian Connolly.
Good evening, Madam President, members of council. This is Brian Connolly with the law firm of Otten Johnson. I'm the project's land use attorney, and Brent and I are both on for the purpose of answering questions. So I'll leave it at that. And Major Richard Pease of the Salvation Army is going to be giving the applicant presentation.
All right.
Salvation Army.
I am Major Richard Pease. I reside in Lakewood.
Oh, you know what? We're going to go ahead, Mr. Pease. We have you scheduled a bit further down, so we'll go ahead and come back to you here. Next up, we have Jesse Paris.
Jesse!
First. Go ahead, Jesse.
Members of council, those watching at home, to Michelle Paris, and I live in District 8 in Denver, Colorado. And I represent for Denver Sound Loud, Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Commitment for Social Change,
I love this guy.
as well as the Unity Party of Colorado and My Ohio News. And I will be the next mayor of Denver in 2023.
Yes, you will. Yes, sir.
I have a few questions for the occupant with this rezoning. I want to know exactly what is going to be here. I've seen something about mixed use, commercial. Is it going to be shops? Is it going to be a mix of housing and shops? If there's going to be housing, what is going to be the AMI level for the housing? If there's not going to be housing, what kind of shops are going to be present? And how long, if there's housing, would it be actually affordable? Would it be for 20 years,
there
60
you go.
years, 100 years? And was there a traffic study done? If someone can please answer those questions, I would very well appreciate it.
The questions.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Next up, now we have Richard Pease. Go ahead, sir.
I know, right? Jesse always delivers.
And we're going to need to go
LaShawn
ahead,
Paris. Love
Richard,
that
and
man.
have you unmute.
All right, have you got me there now?
Mm-hmm. Yep, go ahead.
Great. So I'm Major Richard Pease with the Salvation Army. I'm a resident of Lakewood, but I do work at the Salvation
really
Army at
an army.
1370 Pennsylvania
FYI.
Street here in downtown Denver. So, honorable
They
members of
also
City
don't
Council,
like
it's my
gay people.
privilege to represent the Salvation Army
Just
this
saying.
evening. I would just share with you that we are committed to serving our
It's
neighbors
possible to be a
in
Christian
need in
and
the Denver metro area.
not hate gay people
Having
directly.
been here since 1887,
It's possible, yes.
keeping our promise of doing
Yeah.
the most good for
I
our
do it.
community, we plan to do so for at least the next 133 years.
Probably not his church.
We are seeking this rezoning as our property is currently under a very restrictive PUD, which effectively only allows for what is currently built on the site and prevents us from best
My
serving
pastor's trans.
the needs of Denverites. The proposed EMX3 zone district would allow us to build housing first, trauma-informed model bridge housing, providing comprehensive case management for up to 85 homeless families at a time, enabling them to get back on their feet, to build a new core community center, which would be a gathering place for the neighborhood, providing after-school programs, a gymnasium that the community may use, programs for seniors, and much more, and to build a new regional headquarters and administration building on our property. While Blueprint Denver height guidance calls for up to 5 stories on this site, we believe the proposed zone district allows for a project that will provide significant community benefits while being in line with the character of the neighborhood. We're particularly excited about the opportunity
We've heard this
to
before.
build the new bridge housing, which will expand on the success of our existing Lambeth Family Center at 29th and Federal. Last year, 79 families were served using the Housing First trauma-informed care model, and 98% of
75.
them exited into
75.
permanent, stable housing. Given the current circumstances, we believe more strongly than ever that housing like
75
this will be
families at
necessary
29th
for
and
families
Federal?
in the years to come.
Really?
We also believe that this will be a win for the residents of the city and county of Denver.
How?
Building on our existing partnership
Because you
with
think
Denver,
we're tuned out?
working
Because you
together,
think we don't
we will
give a
continue
shit?
to address the issue of homelessness among families with a housing first, trauma-informed care model that seeks to break the cycle of poverty and meet people where they are at. Together, we can provide life-transforming services to our neighbors in need. We hope to have your support, and we are happy to answer any questions that you may have on this rezoning proposal.
I can't see his name.
Thank
It's too
you.
small. Richard something.
Our last speaker is Comrade Defense.
That's you go. Maybe the other one there too tonight.
Hello, City Council of Denver. Fuck you, Major, whatever, from the Salvation Army. 75 families, really? 75 families? Today alone, myself and some comrades fed over 200 individuals and families. I distributed over $300 worth of emergency winter gear that the city and county of Denver fails to do. It is going to be freezing tonight. It is wet outside. People are going to die. And we're talking about rezoning. We're talking about pedestrian-friendly walkways, which really is just a racist term and a way in which you're going to prevent homeless people from being able to find somewhere to survive.
They won't be alive when this building comes to fruition.
We'd ask you to please address the council as a whole.
Would you please address the problems?
The city. These are residents. They're human beings. People. It's not property over people. It's people over property. I'm ashamed of how this city is falling apart. Fences everywhere. What is this, the Hunger Games?
We're asking you to please speak on the rezoning for 0966.
You're sitting warm in your houses, dry, cozy, while thousands are freezing wet. You can ask me to be nice and fast and stop yelling. I don't give a fuck. I am expressing my First Amendment right. Fuck you, Madam President. Fuck you.
Thank you. That concludes our speakers this evening. Questions from members of council?
That was good. That is what I call civil disobedience, y'all. That's how you do it.
Question is for James from CPD. One of the things that you mentioned wasn't something
I didn't hear what she was saying.
have a lot of understanding about. It was the
perfect,
subject
and
to
that was great.
protected
Thank you.
district standards.
Proud of you.
Can you describe that a little bit more for me?
Absolutely. So the protected districts are any of our single unit or 2 unit districts within the city of Denver. And the protected district standards are specifically designed for those single and 2 unit zone districts that are adjacent to non-protected districts. So
that's right.
Again, adjacent to mixed use zone districts or commercial zone districts or something like that. And I don't have them memorized, but there are, series of step backs and setbacks and things that are designed to allow wide access and deference in general to the single unit and 2 unit zone districts, in recognition of it being there being a transition area from community corridor areas to more residential areas.
What would that look like with this particular project?
They want you to know that they are so proud of you.
So that would look like.
Well, it starts with Jess.
As
William.
I sort of mentioned, enhanced
Kerrie is
setbacks and step backs in bulk planes to properties. So this is there are single unit districts
Victor's proud.
The specifically to the north.
So see,
Pull up a map for you.
that's right. So it starts here.
So again, to the
And then-
north,
and then
west,
here.
and east, there are
That.
single unit zone districts in direct proximity to this parcel. So they would have to
I told
comply
you they're
with
not equipped for this.
additional setback and bulk plane requirements. I don't have them
Mom's correct.
pulled up off the top of my head, but if
So
you,
This is what disobedience.
Yeah,
Sorry,
no, James, just even in big picture, not really knowing what like blueprints or what
I
they're
didn't even get my 3 minutes.
exactly planning. there's a big open field in a large part of the property. If they were to build something there, are you talking about,
I'm not saying it's
for 3 stories, it wouldn't be 3 stories right up to the house. It would have some.
Yes, that's exactly what we're talking about.
I mean, there's another, they don't even monitor really, so I mean, just go sign up for the
Okay,
next one. There's
and,
another one in 20 minutes.
Mr. Pease,
They come up with a different
the
pseudonym though.
I mean,
question around,
Monsieur.
Maybe I should call myself General.
the project that you're hoping to
Savior.
build.
Why not?
I'm thrilled about the
I'm Mayor
perspective
Hancock's
of
conscience.
the community center there, the bridge
Voice of the
housing.
people. I don't want
But
It
you are the
really
voice
is
of the
one of
people.
those kind of housing components that's desperately needed. I am curious though about
Very soon for
the
kerriejoy.
potential of it not getting built and what would happen to the property in that circumstance.
Are you out?
So, Councilmember, we would not proceed with construction
Thank you. I sure will. You
until
too.
we
I'm
have
so
the
glad I got to
funds
meet you and
for
I'll see
the
you on
project.
Monday.
And unless we do the project, we don't plan on making any changes to the property. So we've been there since the 70s and we're not planning on going anywhere. We just want to improve
they haven't done anything.
Right.
services that we provide on our
Could you serve the LGBTQ community as well? That'd be
Madam
great.
President, I think those were all of my questions for now.
All
I'm
right,
so glad.
thank
Where's
you,
Candy? Candy always
Councilwoman
has
Flores.
questions.
Councilwoman Ortega, you're up.
Thank you, Madam President. My first question is for James. James, on this particular site,
that was great, babe.
Will there be a separate curb cut into the property, or will they have to pull in off one of the side streets? I'm trying to figure out whether or not that's going to require any approvals from CDOT. I believe this is a state highway corridor. Could be wrong about that, but wanted to get your input on that.
Thank you for the question, Councilwoman Ortega.
Someone's trying to show off they've done the reading.
To that question, and I would be happy to try and find it out for you.
Okay. I know with some of our projects that we've done in various areas of the city where it does require a curb cut, sometimes CDOT hasn't always been that cooperative, and I'm not sure, Mr. Pease, you
And
may
if you
be
cut
able
the
to
curbs,
speak
homeless people
to
won't be able to sleep
kind of
there.
where the traffic will come off of Alameda into the site.
Traffic's not on that side of
Sure.
Alameda.
I would we would continue to use the curb cut that we have that goes to our existing senior residents. That would be the main curb cut. We do also actually have three on the property already, and we're actually going to be taking that down to 2. So certainly that'll, I believe, happen during the design phase.
Okay, and so besides the 85 units, first of all, can you talk about what the bedroom sizes are that you're looking at?
Bedroom sizes
And then
are?
is there any other
that's
anticipated
amazing.
housing besides those
I'm so
85
proud.
units?
Thank you.
So certainly
that's just me
the
saying
current
come
plans
here. I
are
can't
still
believe I'm so
in
glad people
development,
actually did.
but we're looking
I
at
see this
a
and I'm always afraid that this is all
450
we had
square
outside,
foot
but
apartment
how
per
many do you have?
family that has the bedrooms and bathroom in it, and then there would be no additional housing on the campus.
This is what we're doing.
So those aren't very big families if they're only 450 square feet.
They're about twice the size of our
That's so
current.
good. Cause see, that's how you help
rooms at the
the
Mammoth Family
unhoused.
Okay.
It's by doing this stuff. Not
Let's
pedestrian friendly
see.
corridors.
So will you be looking to get any low income tax credits for the project?
We would certainly be open to any funding opportunities that would be
We're
available.
asking about bedroom sizes
And I
like
would
she's
also-
apartment shopping.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Councilmember.
No, I'm just asking if you have someone on your team that's familiar with the low income tax credit process, because it can be very cumbersome, and
Oh,
it's
thank you so
rare
much
that
for
an
caring about the
applicant
process
gets
and
funding
helping
their
him out.
first time out of the chute. It also requires support from the city if you're going to be asking for any city financing, because that helps sort of, kind of line you up for greater approvals at the CHAFA
Are
level.
you guys heading out?
Sure. We do have legal counsel that's familiar with the low-income housing tax credit process, and we have been successful in other jurisdictions in obtaining that. So we're confident that if we were to move in that direction, we could be successful in partnering with the city on getting that. And then if I could, just going back to your question about the unit sizes, I did want to mention that we are actually designing the property as well to have all of the units be interconnected with adjoining doors, so that as family sizes change, we could scale up to give them 2 of the units if it's a 6 or 8 member family. So we certainly wouldn't expect a large family to be put into small space.
Right. Okay. So the commercial space, a lot of that will be your admin offices moving to the campus still. Is that correct?
Correct. So we are moving our divisional headquarters, which serves as the regional administration for Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and half of Montana, onto the property. We are taking it down from our current size, partly because of COVID and partly because of the requirements of the property. But it will give us a more cost-effective way to serve the community and probably reuse a building we have on Capitol Hill that there are others in the community that could make better use of it than us.
I was going to ask if that, if this project is contingent on selling that property, or do you intend to continue to keep and utilize it for other purposes within your Salvation Army family?
Sure, we do plan on selling that property. We believe that there are significant folks in the community that would love to be there and would provide a significant funding towards the project for the privilege.
Okay, thank you. Those are all the questions I have, Madam President.
All right, thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Flynn.
Thank you, Madam President. James, maybe you could address just the basic question for me on the selection of the EMX3 zone for this. Were any other zone designations considered with the applicant? There's already a 5-story building on the site, 6 stories if you go on the north side downhill, and EMX3 is 1 to 3 stories. So I'm just wondering, does the existing building become a non-conforming use, or was there some other zone designation that was discussed here?
What an excellent question. Let me go to some of my hidden slides.
I ask only excellent questions.
Oh, you're so full of yourself.
The reason I ask is because if it does become a non-conforming use in an EMX3, there might be restrictions on alterations or changes to the existing building that might in the future be problematic. I'm just wondering if that was discussed and vetted.
Yes, sir. So this question came up at Planning Board as well. Pulled the relevant zone section or definition. So the 5-story structure would become a compliant structure, which is a structure that was legally established that meets one of these 2 following conditions.
Which conditions have to be met?
So in this falls in number 2, the legally established structure was conforming under former Chapter 59 on June 24th, 2010, but does not currently comply with Denver zoning code, building height standards, siding form standards, or design element form standards.
Because right now the 29th and Federal is not.
There are
29th
different
and Federal is
levels of
their first location. It was deemed a success
conforming,
because they're trying to
compliance,
gentrify the
illegal,
federal
irregular. This is the most lenient of those forms. They would not have issues.
So 29th and Federal is
they couldn't put a 6th or 7th story on top of it, obviously, but they would not have issues in modifying the existing structure.
Okay, that was my one concern with this. Thank you, Madam President. That's all.
All right, thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Sandoval.
And allowing a company that is frequently.
So my question's for the Salvation Army.
Are charged with
you have you used to be headquarters in Louisville, correct?
An
Off of Pennsylvania.
LGBTQ
you had a site down there
to bring.
If you're referring to our adult rehabilitation center that
which
was
won't do a damn thing for the unhoused anywhere.
Right below where
And
25 and 70 cross, that's actually a different part of the Salvation Army.
Just say whatever you want. I loved it the last time.
A facility under our
you don't have to make sense.
what
I want to
part?
make sense in the
How,
middle
can you
of
explain that in a different way?
vulgarity and-
Sure, we have an adult rehabilitation center command
100%.
that handles all of our
100%.
adult rehabilitation
Sometimes when I
centers
get
in the
into my
13
righteous anger
western
mode,
United
I start off
States.
making sense
And
and then lose that
is,
very
well,
quickly.
we're one Salvation
So don't
Army. We
worry.
have different departments, as you can imagine. We're pretty significant sized, and so they handle the alcohol and rehabilitation program. So that was their men's residence that is temporarily suspended operations while they're trying to find a new location and restart that program. They do still have a women's residence here in operation in northeast up near Westminster.
Okay, thank you. How can we guarantee that you won't sell this land now that I know you've been here for a long time, but if you look at the redevelopment of Denver as a whole, zone districts that are rezoned to 3 stories have the most desirability through developers. So I'm just wondering, did you talk about adding a development agreement with the Office of Housing and Stability? Did you talk about entering into some type of housing agreement or development agreement so that we can guarantee that the actual affordability of this land will be there?
Oh, there you go, Brian.
Yeah, Councilwoman Sandoval, this is Brian Connolly, the land use attorney for the project. We did have those conversations, as I think you're aware, at the Ludi committee hearing, the idea of having a development agreement that would basically obligate the Salvation Army to remain at this property was discussed. And we explored that with the city attorney's office. And I will just say that the Salvation Army was willing to enter into some type of agreement like that. The reality is that under both city and state law, zoning regulates uses, not users. And so the city doesn't actually have the authority to enter into an agreement that would obligate a particular user to remain at the property. Now, with
But they would have to, they're obligated to make sure that user is going to comply with federal anti-discrimination law.
I would never want a development agreement that says the Salvation Army had to stay on the land. That's ridiculous. I'm talking about a development agreement that the city oftentimes enters into, where it requires affordability for the developer. I would never. So if you were talking about a type of development agreement that made the Salvation Army stay with the land, that's like not legal. But I'm talking about a type of development
What's your
agreement
fucking question?
that says, if you redevelop this land, you will develop 80% units or 20% units at 80% AMI. That happens all the time.
Yeah, and where that happens, and I guess I would also ask a member of the city attorney's office to speak to this, where that typically happens is where there's an
question out loud if someone could do
that goes over and above what Blueprint
because
calls
Salvation
for.
Army is not exactly known for
my
its
understanding is that it's
inclusivity.
not the city's practice to require that, where you have a zoning designation that generally
It'd be real nice
complies
if they
with the
could get it
Blueprint
on the record.
designation, as is the case here.
They ban your missus.
That's
not to put that on her specifically, but
So
somebody's
I've
gonna
never
say
heard
this
that
shit.
before
If not, I got some people in here who
you
will.
can't get a
No,
rezone
yes,
if you
you
don't
Yes,
follow
you do.
Blueprint Denver standards.
When's that next
So
comment
each
coming?
applicant has to be within the recommendations within Blueprint Denver. So it would be odd for us to be approving something that goes above and beyond the recommendations of Blueprint Denver. So all zonings stay within the form of Blueprint Denver, and I'm working on several in my council district. So contrary to your belief, we enter into these all the time at Denver City, and the city and county of Denver does. Correct.
And your code criteria, though, don't contemplate entry into a development agreement as just a matter of course.
No, you're correct. It's not required. There's nothing that is required right now because of the Telluride agreement. Until the
Way to
state
show them
invents
off.
the
See, this is the
Telluride.
other.
I'm
This is the
asking why
other
you
thing.
didn't
Notice this. Notice this.
voluntarily
Notice
do
who is
that if
doing the
that is
talking
your
right now.
mission for
Someone
the
who
Salvation
couldn't do
Army.
math on a zoning agreement the night that Carrie and I decided to educate Carrie on pickleball so that we could really curse the city council. This woman is posturing herself for a mayoral run too.
The Salvation Army
Y'all.
and their mission to house those most vulnerable.
That's she's white presenting.
So I'm just wondering why it wasn't done.
She's the one that deploys strategic
Like I say,
Spanglish.
Councilman Sandoval, I mean, we offered that we were willing to enter into this agreement. We were told that this was not a circumstance in which the city would enter into this type of agreement. So I guess I would defer to staff of the city attorney's office for further explanation.
And Councilwoman Sandoval.
She has to
we have
remind us from
Adam
time to time she
Hernandez
ain't white.
From the city attorney's office.
I don't think it, but with all due respect, Madam President, it's not Adam Hernandez. It would be with someone, Britta, because oftentimes we enter into our development agreements with the Office of Housing Stability. We don't enter into the agreements with Adam Hernandez. So I'll quit asking my questions, but I just find it interesting that you were not willing to enter into a development agreement when you are rezoning and you are upzoning the rest of the land from the current PUD. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sandoval. And James, I think we can go ahead and have you stop sharing your screen for us. Thank you for putting up the compliant structure slide up. All right, and our next question is from Councilwoman Kniech.
Oh, fuck you.
Thank you, Madam President. A couple of the questions here I think might be clarified by a little more clarity on the type of housing.
Could be clarified by clarity?
Keys, you use this term bridge housing, which kind of is, I think it may be an insider term. Can you clarify a little bit about the difference between bridge housing and like what we would consider permanent housing that is an apartment with a kitchen that, so tax credits, for example, and some of the types of housing agreements we're describing are generally for permanent housing where a family has a lease and they get to stay until, the end. And so can you just, I think talk a little bit more about bridge housing and what it is and how it's different?
I'd be happy to. So bridge housing, which uses the Housing First trauma-informed care model, is specifically designed to be 90 days or less. So the idea here is not that we're building transitional housing that's up to 2 years, which is, as you mentioned, one of the requirements generally of low-income housing tax credits.
This is the question that Sandoval just fumbled
really
real hard.
That too deeply. That is the model that we use at Lambeth, which is very successful. And we believe that in moving forward with that model, if we expand to
Speaking of successful, the Salvation Army has done an amazing job of capitalizing on homelessness dollars
so we're talking
in recent years, and that's what they're trying to do here. It's gross. It's gross that we're even discussing this in the middle of a global pandemic with people literally dying on the street tonight.
Which, as I said, is up to 90 days, offers intensive case management. We also do some case management after the fact.
I fucking hate the Salvation Army, right? If you hate the Salvation Army, sign up for public comment.
In the Metro Denver Homeless Initiative and the various partners that we have, including the City and County of Denver and with Host. Is that helpful, Council Member?
I hope so. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll save the rest for comments. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome.
Yay for comments. I got comments.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Hines.
Thank you, Madam President. Major Peace, do you is
he wearing a tux?
Do you currently serve anyone who needs this housing? Is there anyone that you might turn away who might apply?
No, he's got satin lapels.
No, Council Member. Our mission is to meet human need without discrimination. So we do not turn folks away.
They just said that. Hines just asked my question.
With coordinated entry to make sure that folks are coming through both
so they don't discriminate.
Entry so that we can make sure they have access to all of the resources that are available throughout Denver Metro. That's just more of the technical side of things, but we definitely do not turn away folks that are in need.
So there aren't any classes or protected classes like the LGBT community. You accept anyone who applies, or anyone who meets the qualification space available.
Thank you, Chris Hines.
Typically, the qualification is that space is available, and you generally have to be literally homeless, or we have a referral through coordinated entry. So, other than that, to be honest, we don't ask any of those other questions because they're not relevant when someone is homeless or hungry or cold or needing housing.
Thank you, Major. I would agree. One other question: what about accessibility for people with disabilities, people who have mobility impairments or intellectual disabilities? Are you considering that population as well?
We are, as we develop the program elements. Certainly, this is kind of an ongoing process to improve that. Certainly the building will be built to all ADA specifications, and then from a programs perspective, we will make sure that we tailor. That's part of the Housing First trauma-informed care piece that goes into that. And I have
the trauma that y'all caused.
Experts in our social services department that work with that, and certainly we work with Host as well, and would collaborate on making sure that we met those needs.
Yeah, thank you again, Major, for those comments. I think I actually saw you on the sidewalk in front of your location in Cap Hill, and that's my district. And I think you were just you happened to be walking by as I was rolling by. So
could be. I like walking out for lunch occasionally, especially down to the Great Wall. They have good orange chicken.
Yeah. I've heard people come from all over the metro area to that particular Chinese restaurant. So, your location in Cap Hill is a gem. I'll just put at that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Torres.
Thank you, Madam President. Major Pease, what's the square footage of the open space that you have now?
I would have to defer to my team because I'm not sure. I don't have that number off the top of my head. So either Brent or Brian, does one of you have that number?
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
I don't have the current open space on the property. I think Brent might be on.
They're gonna
Maybe a
rezone it to
participant
be
with his hand
residential and
raised.
commercial in the area.
That's okay. I don't need
take a look at it on the map.
Figure. Off topic, I'm just wondering if
this is in my
you
district.
had or the Salvation Army
District
had considered whether or not this space could be used for an open campsite, like a safe outdoor camping location.
We have not discussed that with the Safe Outdoor Spaces Committee.
Would you mind if I followed up with you about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to discuss that with you, Councilmember.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, and there's
Thank
a
you,
delay.
Councilman
Yeah,
Torres.
there's a 5-second delay on the TV.
All right.
It's just a failure of
Seeing
the
no
strategic
other
department
questions
and their firewalls.
from my colleagues.
There's no reason.
The public hearing for Council Bill 20-0966 is closed. Comments by members
Especially if
of
they're not going to
council.
moderate your comments.
Councilmember Torres.
There's no reason.
Thank you,
So
Madam
all this
President.
does is
I appreciate the
Laziness.
amount of engagement that the Salvation Army has done with neighbors and through a number of back and forth comments. I think it was really important that all of the property owners and residents that surround this property in what is now a pretty large wide open space.
It's going to cost a lot, but again, they're capitalizing
and appreciate
off
kind of what
the
your
dollars
vision
they
is
receive to assist the unhoused
and what you're
to do
hoping
something
to build.
profitable, and I'm morally against that too.
85 units is 85 units, and I think everyone
Exactly. They are morally bankrupt
is
motherfuckers.
necessary and needed, and so I appreciate
Exactly.
the work that you've
A
all
lot of people don't know
undertaken
that.
to try to bring that to reality. Thank you, Madam President, and I look forward to supporting the project.
Thank you, Councilwoman Torres. Councilwoman Knich.
Thank you, Madam President. I also just want to thank the team for having done outreach extensively over, I think probably well over a year ago, if not longer ago, that I first heard about this. And, you know, the inclusion of a range of services, right? It's hard to believe gymnasiums right this moment, right? It feels very far away in our future, but we know that more than ever, kids will need places to go to recreate when they can safely. And, you know, in particular, I think that
people
bridge
need
housing
spaces to not
an
die
example
in like they're gonna
the range
tonight.
of options we need. We have a lot of families that, you know, kind of fall off the cliff of motel and shelter.
And they're
before they're
dying
able to get the
tonight.
permanent housing. And so that word bridge, it literally means kind of that filling of that gap. And so, you know, I do think that your history in the
You're
city.
not filling the gap.
I appreciate the experience you all have had running emergency camps in other countries.
In
for
other
those
countries?
who are refugees of war and civil unrest. And in
What
our
the
case,
fuck
we
are
have
you
economic
talking
conditions
about?
here. And so, you know, I also am assured, I appreciated the questions about not turning anyone away. Although our federal government
Even though it's a
took
lie.
minute to try to undo a number of anti-discrimination provisions in the shelter arena, which I think bridge housing will more likely fit under that.
Come
than housing,
on!
but we also have state public accommodations laws that cover the full range of housing. And so if anyone needs, reassurance about that, we've spent a lot of time over the past few years educating providers.
Let me reassure you of the communities that we have been helping on the streets who are dying tonight. Did I mention that?
Moving forward with this rezoning today that meets the criteria, in particular for the land use change proposed, but it's always great when the use is also something our community needs. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Kniech, and I'll go ahead and chime in as well that based on the criteria, this rezoning meets all of the guidelines that are laid out for it, and I would encourage folks to support it. Madam Secretary, roll call.
How about fuck you?
Aye.
Fuck you.
Black?
Aye. Fuck you.
Cedabaca? Clark?
Aye.
What does Cedabaca say?
Flynn?
I don't know. I think she might have abstained.
Aye.
Fuck you.
Herndon?
Aye.
Fuck you.
Hyde?
Aye.
Oh, Jesus. Really?
Cashman?
Aye.
Fuck you.
Kniech?
Aye.
Fuck you.
Ortega?
Aye.
Fuck you.
Sandoval? Aye.
Fuck you.
Sawyer?
Aye.
Fuck you.
Madam President?
Aye. Madam Secretary,
you.
please close the voting and announce the results.
12 ayes.
Yeah, here are the results.
12
People are
ayes.
dying on the
Council
street
Bill
tonight while we
966
just gave a
has
lucrative
passed.
project to a for-profit company that
Councilmember Black,
discriminates
will you please
against
put Council Bill
LGBTQ community openly and
1027
widely.
on the floor for final passage?
Yes, Madam President. I move that Council Bill 20-1027 be placed upon final consideration and do pass.
It's been moved and seconded. You've got either Herndon or Hines, so.
Herndon.
Thank you,
I'm the most
Councilman
racist.
Herndon.
Right.
I'm the most
The
fascist.
combined public hearing for Council
And he's
Bill
black.
1027 and Council Bill
I know, right?
1028 is open. Speakers may offer comments on either or both items. After the conclusion of the public hearing, Council will vote separately.
Here we go.
on
Public
each.
hearing number 2.
May we please have the staff report? And we have Liz Weigel up.
Good evening. Thank you, Madam President and council members. Can you see my presentation?
Go ahead,
great.
Liz.
This presentation will cover both the text amendment and map amendment, both of which are sponsored by Councilwoman Amanda Sandoval in order to allow accessory dwelling units or ADUs in the Chaffee Park neighborhood. The text amendment creates a new zone district, the ESUB1 district, which would allow accessory dwelling units on single unit residential lots with a minimum lot size of 4,500 square feet. The map amendment rezones all single unit residential districts in Chaffee Park to allow accessory dwelling units. While I'm presenting the two amendments concurrently, the text amendment must be considered for approval first. This will allow consideration of map amendment pending the establishment of the new zone district. The proposed rezoning is located within Council District 1 in the Chaffee Park neighborhood. It includes the area in Chaffee Park that has residential zoning. This includes approximately 1,400 parcels bounded by Federal Boulevard, Osage Street, 52nd Avenue, and Interstate 70. The proposed map amendment intends to rezone properties between Federal and Tejon that are currently ESUDX to ESUD1X, properties between Tejon and Pecos Street that are currently ESUB to the proposed ESUB1 zone district, and properties between Pecos and Osage that are currently ESUD to ESUD1. The proposed zone districts are the same as the current zone districts, except that they would allow accessory dwelling unit use, either within the primary structure or in a detached structure. Similarly, the new ESUB1 district would retain the same standards as the ESUB district, but would allow that ADU use. I'll go over the existing context. The proposed rezoning area is currently ESUB, ESUD, and ESUDX, as I mentioned. All three zone districts are single unit residential districts, and they allow the urban house primary building form with a maximum height of 30 to 35 feet. The ESU DX district also allows the suburban house primary building form. There is a view plane in a portion of this area that starts at the park at 51st and Zuni Street and extends towards downtown. This results in building height limits ranging from approximately 34 feet at the south end of the park to approximately 79 feet towards Interstate 70. This range of heights generally exceeds the allowable maximum height for both the current and proposed zone districts and does not impact the rezoning. In terms of existing land use, the area is predominantly single unit residential land use that you can see in yellow on this map. There are a few public and quasi-public uses throughout. And the proposed rezoning is adjacent to commercial, office, mixed use, park and open space, and some industrial uses.
Do y'all know this area?
Here are some images from within the proposed rezoning with examples
Between
from
70 up to
each of the
52nd.
three zone districts. And here are some images from surrounding areas. The council office worked closely with the Chaffee Park Neighborhood Association and began outreach for this rezoning last fall. This outreach included flyers, canvassing, 2 town halls, and an online survey.
Was this anything like the last time we heard about this where the residents were like, I heard nothing about this shit and fuck you? Did you really?
The application was formally submitted in May of 2020.
I don't
On
know.
September 16th, the planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval. There were 12 speakers at that hearing, 10 in support and 2 in opposition. CPD has received a letter of support from the Chaffee Park Neighborhood Association. We've also received 26 comments in support from members of the public, citing a desire and appropriateness for ADUs in this neighborhood and the importance of ADUs as a tool to promote affordability and aging in place opportunities. We've also received 6 comments in opposition, citing concerns around parking, density, neighborhood character, and short-term rentals. Because this rezoning is legislative, it is only subject to 3 review criteria shown here. Text amendment is subject to these same criteria, so I will discuss them together. The first is consistency with adopted plans. So we do find that the proposed text and map amendments are consistent with several strategies from Comp Plan 2040 shown here, and there are a few that I'll call out specifically. The amendments are consistent with these two equity strategies because the text amendment creates a new zone district that will allow ADUs, and the map amendment enables ADUs in the entire neighborhood. ADUs can provide additional housing options, including those for seniors and families, and they can provide residents more flexibility to remain in their homes. The amendments are consistent with our climate strategy because they will allow additional housing units on lots with existing houses where we have existing infrastructure and services such as sewer, water, and transit in place. In Blueprint Denver, this area is called out as an urban edge context. The proposed zone districts are consistent with this plan direction.
You don't get another comment?
Which would remain predominantly residential with single and 2 unit uses.
I guess they must have shut
The
it.
proposed zone district are consistent with the future places mapping,
Well done.
which is called out as low residential and described as single and 2 unit, and places where accessory dwelling units are appropriate.
Next time I'm just gonna sign up.
There are some residential collectors and arterials in the area, but most of the streets
Mary Catherine's clearing her throat. She asked
in
me
the
to speak
rezoning are
instead.
undesignated locals.
That's funny.
Under the Blueprint growth strategy, these areas are expected to see 10% of job growth and 20%
But I think one of our
housing
others
growth
might have
by
got in.
2040. The additional accessory dwelling units permitted by the rezoning would be consistent with that growth strategy. The amendments are also consistent with additional strategies in Blueprint. These are detailed in the staff report, but I'll briefly summarize them here. Policy 4 of our land use and build form section states that we should diversify housing choice through the expansion of accessory dwelling units throughout all our residential areas in the city. Policy 11 recommends that we implement Blueprint's plan recommendations through large-scale legislative rezonings, which should include community input and be guided by our equity concepts. And policy 5 focuses on the importance of mitigating involuntary displacement, which I'll discuss in the next few slides. So similar to the rezoning you just heard, text amendments and large map amendments should be guided by our equity concepts in Blueprint Ever. The first of which I'll go over is access to opportunity. This is a composite score that includes our neighborhood equity index, also proximity to high capacity frequent transit, and access to centers and corridors. The Chaffee Park neighborhood has moderate scores in this category, with access to rail transit lower and access to centers and corridors varying throughout the neighborhood. The text amendment to create ESU B1 will create a new zone district within our urban edge context to allow ADUs, which would allow more residents to live in neighborhoods with access to amenities and quality of life infrastructure. The proposed rezoning in Chaffee Park will bring more residents to an area that has access to healthcare, high life expectancy, and it does have access to bus transit and corridors and centers in some portions of the neighborhood. The proposed rezoning will not have a direct impact on creating new corridors or centers, as it will only allow residential uses. The second equity concept is vulnerability to involuntary displacement. And this is a score that includes median household income, percent of renter occupied units, and the percent of residents with less than a college degree. Chaffee Park is more vulnerable based on median household income and education levels, as shown in bold on the slide. It does have high home ownership. The text amendment will allow more properties in the urban edge context neighborhoods to establish an ADU on their property, which can be an important opportunity to build wealth.
Chris Hines just confirmed that he is indeed wearing a tux. He got it because he keeps getting invited to these events, and it arrived just in time for COVID to strike. And he wanted to get some use out of it. I'm like, I respect that. I put on the good shoes
existing homeowners to supplement their
just for
income,
you, Chris Hines.
while also increasing housing options and allowing a greater range of incomes to live in the neighborhood. The third equity concept is housing diversity. Now, this includes 5 measures, including the percent of middle density housing, home size diversity or bedroom size, ownership versus rental, housing costs, and the number of income restricted units. Chaffee Park is considered not diverse for the 3 measurements shown in bold. The text amendment will expand housing diversity by allowing a new housing option that is typically smaller and at a different price point than existing single unit homes, often found in urban edge neighborhoods. The map amendment to allow ADUs will introduce a new housing type to Chaffee Park and bring more renters to a largely owner-occupied single unit residential neighborhood. The last equity concept is jobs diversity. This map shows the mix of jobs in areas of the city with the dominant industry depicted by color. Chaffee Park shows a greater proportion of retail and manufacturing jobs compared to the city overall. The text and map amendments will have a negligible impact on jobs diversity as they are residential districts. I will also cover Housing Inclusive Denver. This plan was adopted in 2018 and contains recommendations that are relevant to the text and map amendment. The plan recommends expanding the development of accessory dwelling units as they incentivize affordable and mixed-use housing. It also promotes their development as a wealth-building tool for low and moderate income homeowners. The proposed text and map amendment expand access to ADUs and are therefore consistent with these recommendations. In terms of the additional criteria, we do find that the amendments will result in uniform regulations applicable to all new development within the urban edge zone districts. The proposed text amendment and map amendment will further public health, safety, and general welfare by implementing Blueprint Denver. The proposed rezoning will also improve public health outcomes by allowing more residents in an area that has higher life expectancy and access to healthcare, bus transit, and centers and corridors. It will also further the general welfare of the city by providing more housing diversity and opportunities to help residents at a range of income levels continue to live in the neighborhood. Given the finding that all review criteria have been met, staff does recommend approval of both the text amendment and the map amendment. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Liz. For the staff report, council has not received any written testimony on Council Bill 1027 nor Council Bill 1028.
Yet you tried so
and we
hard
have
to
7
infiltrate the
individuals signed
community.
up to speak this evening. And we will start
City
out
Council?
with Jason Hornyak.
At the very beginning of this, they were like, we tried so hard to sell this to the community, yet none of them had anything to say before tonight. Mm-hmm.
Hi there. Sorry about that. Good evening. My name is Jason Hornyak, and I live at 50th and Decatur Street. I'm on the board of the Chafee Park Neighborhood Association, and I'm the leader of our ADU task force. So I'm delighted by the opportunity to speak in support of both items on this historic bill.
Oh my God.
This vote is a culmination of a 2-year effort that began when multiple residents approached the RNO asking how they could build an ADU on their property. After consulting with CPD and examining the comprehensive plan, we realized that the best path forward would be to pursue a mass legislative rezoning with the help of our city council office. With their leadership, we performed an extensive outreach in the neighborhood, and I'm very proud that we were able to show that a majority of our residents are in favor of this gentle increase in density. The physical character of Chafee Park hasn't changed that much since it was built in the 1940s, but the situation around it has changed quite a bit. This neighborhood was on the edge of town when it was built, but it's now just 2 neighborhoods away from the downtown of a major American city with miles of sprawl on the other side. Even though Chafee Park's built environment remains stable despite all of this external change, our land values have skyrocketed, which has caused economic and social instability for our residents. Under our current zoning code, our residents only have 2 options to deal with this instability: stay and try to keep up with their rising property taxes, or they can cash in and sell their property and move away. We're trying to give people a third option, one where they can capitalize on the increasing land value without having to move out, an option that could allow them to alleviate the pressures of increasing housing costs and provide care for their extended family without sacrificing their independence.
Oh my
An
God.
option that won't just benefit them as the owner of the property, but will benefit the person that rents it as well by providing them a reasonably priced home. This option allows us, the residents of Chafee Park, to do something this city has been struggling with for years: providing more housing. Legalizing ADUs will give us that option. So I won't directly benefit from this bill, as I won't be building an ADU on my property, but I strongly believe that my neighbors should have the right to do so if they choose. Because I realize that this is bigger than me as an individual, and it's bigger than us as a neighborhood. It's about the city and our land use values as a whole. We're growing so fast that attempting to live the same way we did in the past is actively harming our future. So our comprehensive plan clearly recommends that ADUs should be allowed by right everywhere in the city. I'm extremely proud of the work we did to get here tonight, and I'm very thankful for our councilwoman's leadership and courage. And I'm hopeful this process provides enough proof of concept that ADU should be legalized across the whole city without having to duplicate this effort neighborhood by neighborhood. So we can instead use that time to figure out ways to make them more affordable for the people that need them the most. And that will be our next effort. So if you vote yes, of course. So thank you very much for your time. Have a good night.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Frederick Glick.
Hi, good evening. My name is Fred Glick. I reside at 3850 North York Street in the Clayton neighborhood, Council District Number 9. I'm also a property owner in the Chafee Park neighborhood. I'm here tonight to urge you to support this combined text amendment and map amendment to allow ADUs throughout the Chafee Park neighborhood. The application before you tonight represents the outcome of an admirable and amazing public process, and the RNO and Councilwoman Sandoval and her staff deserve great respect and gratitude for their efforts. There are a lot of good reasons to allow ADUs throughout the Chafee Park neighborhood, providing opportunities for residents to age in place, helping homeowners to build their equity in their homes, enabling multi-generational and extended families to live together.
Whatever.
The residents of Chafee Park have also made clear that they would
All
like
those families
the
are going to have
benefits
to leave the second
of
you start this
increased
project.
density, including opportunities for neighborhood
Oh, he's a
retail, which have been
resident,
made
like
much more
president of
viable
the
with
Chafee Park,
increased
whatever
density.
association, and he's talking about
When I
how
participated in one of the
he
public sessions
ejaculated
organized
all
by
over himself
Councilwoman
at the
Sandoval's
idea of this
office in the
happening.
RNO, I heard people express fears that they wouldn't know who is living in their backyards. As the owner of an ADU, I'd like to make sure it's clear: if you choose to have an ADU, you also get to choose what you do with it. Rent it out, house a family member, use it as a home office, store old newspapers in it. We rent our ADU, and we used a web platform to take applications and conduct background checks on prospective tenants. We interviewed them, called references. We chose who to rent our ADU to. In approving this application, you begin to fulfill the Denverite mandate to allow ADUs throughout the city. The one-off rezoning to allow ADUs on individual properties the city is seeing more and more of are a barrier to those hoping to have ADUs. Not everyone can readily afford the fees required, and navigating the city rezoning process isn't necessarily easy. These one-off rezonings also consume considerable city resources, which I cannot believe the city comes close to recouping through the fees charged.
Whatever.
In many respects, the application before
city
you
ain't
tonight
losing money
is
on
about
shit,
equity
dude.
and opportunity. Many residents, including in my own neighborhood of Clayton, see the borders between where ADUs are allowed and where they are not as arbitrary. Many of my neighbors who are on the wrong side of the line would like the opportunity to have an ADU, to house an aging parent, to generate additional income, to do their part to help alleviate the housing supply crisis Denver faces. I hope you will not only approve this application, but also look at it as a model of what should come next. Whether citywide or neighborhood by neighborhood, the ability for residents to have ADUs should not be reliant upon whether they can risk the fees required, whether they feel comfortable navigating the rezoning process. I thank you for your time and consideration.
So if you want to convert
Thank you.
like your
Our
garage
next speaker is
into
Nola McGowan.
a mother-in-law suite, for example, you're pretty much, or renting
Good
it
evening,
out
council members.
for money, you're
Nola
pretty much
McGowan,
prohibited from doing
4930
it
Vallejo Street.
unless you can
I also
afford
live
to
in
go through
Chapter
the
Park
permitting process to
and
make it
am part
happen
of the
and then
RNO.
be denied.
And I'm actually interested in this rezone both for personal reasons and for systemic reasons that I think are important for the whole city.
So it is an important
I
vote.
would like to build a Grammy flat, and I say Grammy because that's what my kids call my mom, and I would like her to be able to move in my backyard, ideally, or any place close to us. And we have been looking around the neighborhood, walkable distance from our house, a place where my kids could walk over to. And there's nothing in the neighborhood that's affordable under $400,000. We've been looking at ARIA, at the condos there, look at housing there. We're still talking over $400,000 for all of those options. She retired about 2 years ago from the University of Wisconsin and would like to move here, be close to all of us, especially her grandchildren. And we need a different type of option. We're also, we have a pretty big lot. It's 10,000 feet. I'm very interested in the idea of activating our alleyway. It's a huge amount of space that's unused and unactivated throughout the neighborhood. I also think that we have plenty of parking. I'll just say that throughout the neighborhood and in our front and backyard, there's parking.
Yes, correct. This does need to be approved citywide.
We really need affordable housing and rental options outside of just building large apartments, and this is a great infill option.
My great objection earlier was to the
Councilwoman,
enthusiasm about the city so generous to do this. The city should have fucking done this a long time ago when the conversations about the lack of affordable housing began.
And appreciate all your work on this. Also, just ADUs should be across the city. It's a reason we've been looking at it in GES for a long time as well. But there's so many pressures in GES with investments happening right now that putting another thing in there just didn't seem like quite the right time. And we really would like to see this be across the whole city instead of being neighborhood by neighborhood. Also, those support services for low income homeowners is critical. I've looked into how much I could get for a loan, how much we could, if we could figure this out. And we couldn't do this without the investment from my mom to be able to
So
build
theoretically,
this.
a mutual aid society could raise a bunch of money and then convert their garage into a shelter.
Just the ADUs, if possible, to have a structure that
That's what ADU means. You form a nonprofit around your mutual aid society, and I get the objection to the nonprofit industrial complex, but there are tax benefits to it. So you convert, you create, you put it on your property, and then you give the city the finger.
Hello, my name is Lucia Brown, and I live in the Baker neighborhood in Council District 7 with Jolin. And I'm also president of the Baker Historic Neighborhood Association. And we've had ADUs in Baker forever. We had carriage houses built. And so even before ADUs were allowed in the zoning, we had them here because of grandfathering. I have a carriage house in my backyard, and we converted. It was my husband's office for 16 years, and we just converted it over to an apartment. And not only does it provide more necessary housing in Denver, and it's an extra source of income. And so when my husband retires, we'll still have some income coming into the house. And I know that there are people who are concerned about like short-term rentals and issues like that, but because Denver has such strong short-term rental laws, with the property having to be the primary residence, there's really would be very little negative impact. And also the area of Chaffee County, I don't think would be a high demand area for short-term rentals. It's not like it's close to downtown or close to a lot of amenities. So it would probably be more profitable for the homeowners to lease long-term. So I just want to be on the record as saying that I fully support this text amendment change. And I agree with NOLA that this should be done citywide and not neighborhood by neighborhood. It's a no-brainer way to do gentle increase in density and allow for different kinds of housing options and allowing people to age in place. It also deals with being green, more dense, it lowers your carbon footprint. So that's where I stand, and I appreciate the council allowing us to speak on this issue. Thanks.
All right.
And hi, everybody.
Hello, thank you. Next up, we have Susan Powers.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, I wanted to thank Councilwoman Sandoval for bringing this forward. This is, and actually also thank the Chaffee Park Neighborhood Association, because I think they're the most thoughtful RNO in the city. And how often do you have the RNO coming here saying, yes, we approve this, we recommend this. So I'm speaking as a property owner as part of the ARIA Denver development that's within Chaffee Park. But I guess I was supposed to say I live at 1475 Delgany, which is District 9. The ARIA Denver development, which is the 17-acre redevelopment of the former Marycrest Convent, is immediately adjacent to this area. It's part of the city in Chaffee Park, is not part of this rezoning because it's being built out in ways where we have ADUs already there. And I am going to say too, and if she's still listening to this, that we do have an affordable co-housing unit available. So I think I have to make sure that I let that person who was speaking earlier know that maybe her mom can move in there. But I'm here to support this. We've been involved with this neighborhood for over 15 years with the Marycrest property, and we have intentionally developed it as a mixed income project. We'll end up with 40% of the units as affordable as it's developed and then finished up in the next 2 years. But I think that having the ADU option here, as everybody has said, gives people who are long-term homeowners in the Chaffee Park neighborhood, it's a neighborhood that is being impacted by the growth that's coming from the south, build the ability to stay in their home, build a unit that might provide them with the income that is necessary for them to carry on in their life in this neighborhood. I've watched this for the last however many years as things have jumped across I-70 and have been concerned about whether the character of that neighborhood was going to continue to change. And I think this is a way to kind of counter some of that gentrification. So I hope that you'll support this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Allison O'Kelly.
Thank you. Can you hear me all right?
Go ahead.
Perfect. Thank you. So my name is Allison O'Kelly. I live in the 4800 block of Decatur Street in the neighborhood as well. I bought my home a little over 7 years ago, right before property values started skyrocketing. So I was lucky to be able to afford a house at the time. And I'm lucky now to have realized some of those equity increases that Jason spoke about earlier this evening. I speak today in support of the neighborhood rezoning of the neighborhood. I do want to make sure I disclose that I do work in affordable housing. So I would support this gentle density increase in any neighborhood in Denver, but I do it in particular as a resident of Chaffee Park.
Okay.
I think that creating this neighborhood zoning allowance makes it possible for us to do so without creating the administrative burden that has already been discussed.
You definitely cursed during the correct
is
fuck you
put
period.
upon the Planning and Zoning Commission,
You
as well as
definitely
any
cursed during
residents
the right fuck you
who
period.
would like to build an ADU. And so I think the fact that we're doing this as a neighborhood-wide proposal has been a really smart thing. And I also agree with recommendations that this become a city-wide approval rather than additional neighborhoods needing to go through the process that we did. I think that the height and setback limits on buildings that were discussed in the presentation earlier will ensure that there aren't any ADUs that would cause negative impacts on the adjacent homes. Like I know a number of neighborhoods have been concerned about before ADUs came in and they saw what the limits were on those. I also think that we can ensure community access and safety to the neighborhood because, as Nola said earlier, we have fairly wide streets and a lot of space for parking. Most of the houses in our neighborhood have parking both in the front and in the back. So access to those units is not going to create additional traffic, and it's not going to create blocked visibility of the residents. I think that not everybody in the neighborhood will be in a financial position to start building ADUs if this is approved. I myself wouldn't build one anytime soon, but I think it's really important the opportunity that's going to provide to increase affordable housing in the neighborhood and homeownership stability. I think those of us who have elderly relatives in the neighborhood or in the broader metro area see this as a great opportunity to discuss with those family members the possibility of senior family members downsizing and being able to combine homes in a way that works for the entire family. And while I don't see myself doing that soon, my parents live in North Glen and they're very vital seniors now, but things can always change. And I like the fact that we can look at this together as a potential opportunity down the road. So I do want to thank our council member and Naomi Granditz as well. And I thank all of you for your time and hope you will support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker is Jessie Paris.
Jessie Paris. I don't know.
Yes, good evening, members of council, those watching at home. Can I be heard?
That's annoying.
Jesse Paris, I'm representing for Denver Homicide Loud, Black Star Action Movement for Self-Defense, Positive Action Covenant for Social Change, as well as the Unity Party of Colorado and Mile High News. And I live in District 8 in Christopher Herman's district, and I will be the next mayor of Denver in 2023. I support this rezoning tonight. ADUs are one of the many housing options I pushed for when I ran for city council at large last year. And I am very familiar with this district because I've knocked this area 2 years in a row for candidates that ran for office. Most recently, Chairman Sekou was running for the United States Senate. So I'm very familiar with the Chafee Park area. Councilwoman Amanda Sandoval, I support this rezoning. I believe that this should pass tonight. I just had a few questions. I wanted to know what were the 2 letters or comments or letters of opposition at the planning meeting, and what were the 6
good question
letters of or comments at the hearing that the community had in regards to these ADUs. I support ADUs. I would like to see them in every district in this town,
going on, right?
as Nora and others have already stated. So
this guy's my favorite.
If somebody could please answer those questions, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
That is an engaged citizen, and he's unhoused. He was unhoused for a very long time.
That concludes our speakers. Questions from members of council on Council Bill 1027.
You didn't even answer his questions.
And or Council Bill 1028.
Could you even pretend? There's this.
Give it another moment for any hands raised.
You just got 2 perfectly good questions.
All right. Seeing no questions of members of council.
Gross.
The public hearing is closed. Comments by members of council on Council Bill 1027 and or Council Bill 1028. Councilwoman Sandoval.
Thank you, Madam President. So thank you all. It's an honor to be here before you today with this application. As it's been discussed, this is the first time an entire neighborhood has been rezoned to allow accessory dwelling units. And honestly, I wouldn't be here today with all of you if it wasn't for the residents of Chaffee Park. They came together and approached me before I was even sworn into office to talk about how we could get this done. And one of the things that we found out early on is you're voting on two things. You're creating a new map amendment, you're creating a new zone district, because on the east side of T-Home, the parcels are so small that there was not actually a zone district that would allow accessory dwelling units. So I had to slow the process down a little bit and work with community planning and development and create equity throughout the whole entire neighborhood, so the whole entire neighborhood would be able to have the opportunity to have accessory dwelling units. I would also like to thank my aide Naomi Grunditz, who graduated with her master's in land use planning. She and I came up with an idea on how to get involvement from the neighborhood. She worked on a survey that was really well received and did a lot of the back work, which I call is talking to neighbors and explaining this in a way where it's digestible. I feel like a lot of times when we're talking about rezoning and we're talking about land use, we use terminology that's not very accessible. And those in the city and county of Denver, or those of us on city council, we understand it because we have lots of meetings with planners who explain it. And so I feel like it's my job to be able to explain it to everybody who would be impacted by these rezonings. So thank you, Naomi, for your steadfast leadership on this. And I would also like to talk to Jesse's concern. So some of the people who were opposed to this were nervous about having strangers in their backyard. They were nervous about parking, and they were nervous about change. In Northwest Denver, I was born and raised. There has been a lot of change. The built environment has changed drastically since the 2010 zoning code. And so a lot of change can be challenging, and it can be a lot of fear-based. And so we listened to everybody, and I made the tough decision to move forward on the application based on a lot of the equity concepts that you would have found in the document that was presented.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to do that.
And we
so
also
here's the
met
comment
with
I was not allowed to read out loud today
taxes.
at city council meeting.
The fire department to talk about alley
First,
lifts.
it seems important to note that the Salvation Army has a long history of homophobia and transphobia. And the city has no business supporting companies like that. Instead, the city should be supporting real mutual aid organizations that don't require gatekeeping in order to provide necessary services to our neighbors. I spent this evening distributing warm clothes and blankets to the people who later this week the city will sweep out of their homes in one of two sweeps planned for this week. It is snowing, it is freezing, and we are in the middle of a pandemic where the governor is begging people to stay home, but the city is kicking people out of their homes regardless. I will not claim to be an expert in zoning, but I do know that if we are not centering our most vulnerable neighbors in these conversations around how we develop this city, then we are doing this wrong. I suggest you all, the city council, seriously stop this nonsense and work to solve the housing crisis rather than continuing to care more about developers than people.
And I would like Ben and all my other relatives who live in Chaffee Park to stay in this neighborhood. So with that, I would ask that you support this initiative to help create some gentle density in Chaffee Park. And I feel like it meets all the criteria. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Sandoval. And seeing no other hands raised for comments, I'll comment. I would hope that all of our colleagues do support both 1027 and 1028, and just want to give you a huge congrats, Councilwoman Sandoval, because this was a heavy lift, and your leadership and your community engagement, and to have 7 speakers here to all basically be in support of it goes a long way towards your community outreach and engagement. So just want to sincerely congratulate you and the Chaffee Park neighborhood that they're going to have this additional tool for gentle density in the neighborhood. And with that being said, Madam Secretary, roll call on
you,
Council
Madam
Bill
President.
1027, please.
Sandoval.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Torres.
Aye.
Black.
Aye.
Tadabaka.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Herndon.
MK just had to step out for a minute, so I'm filling in.
Aye.
I know it's boring to stare at an
Cashman?
empty wall.
Kinich.
Aye.
I mean, it'll be better than looking at like
Ortega.
half of our council
Aye.
members.
Madam President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Council Bill 1027 has passed. Councilwoman Black, will you please put Council Bill 1028 on the floor?
Yes, Madam President, I move that Council Bill 1028 be placed upon final consideration and do pass.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded by Councilman Herndon. Madam Secretary, roll call on Council Bill 1028.
Black.
Aye.
Tadabaka.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Flynn.
Aye.
Herndon.
Aye.
Hines.
Aye.
Cashman.
Aye.
Kinich.
Aye.
Ortega.
Aye.
Sandoval.
Aye.
Sawyer.
Aye.
Torres.
Aye.
Madam President.
Aye. Madam Secretary, please close the voting and announce the results.
13 ayes.
13 ayes. Council Bill 1028 has passed. Congratulations, Councilwoman Sandoval.
Yay, let's all clap,
Our
Karens.
pre-adjournment announcement on Monday, December 7th. Council will hold a required public hearing on Council Bill 1133, changing the zoning classification for 2201 Arapahoe Street in 5 Points, and a required public hearing on Council Bill 1134, changing the zoning classification for 1055 Locust Street in Montclair. Any protests against Council Bills 1133 or 1134 must be filed with the council offices no later than noon on Monday, November 30th. There being no further business before this body, this meeting is adjourned.
Fuck you. So like now I don't know what to do. I think I'm just gonna sit here and wait for MK to get back.
They just put that in voted. I thought they were gonna.
Yeah, no. So they just basically shut us out because we had one person here who had signed up, but they claimed that she wasn't in the Zoom meeting, which she was. And I mean, honestly, it's probably because I upset.
I thought like I would just hear my name and then I don't know. So maybe that was her, but like usually they like call your name, like the first guy that whose name they did call.
Yeah, there must not have been. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, it's also entirely possible that I upset them because, I used vulgar words and I hurt their little feelers.
She did expressly ask the no vulgar language.
Did she?
I think they cut you right when you said the first one, but I could hear you, but I couldn't hear the thing because it was low.
Oh,
I heard
yeah.
you talking,
Yeah.
but I didn't hear you on the thing.
Yeah.
I think once you dropped the first F-bomb, they just cut it.
No, I was there
Was you
for
on the whole time?
I think I got about a minute and a half or so.
Okay.
Yeah. They had to do the whole, oh, please don't use vulgar language. Oh, please, it hurts my little ears. Oh, okay, this is your last warning. Okay, we're going to cut you off now. Instead of just actually listening to the rage, the righteous anger of people who literally have spent their entire day running around the entire Denver metro area to collect tents and sleeping bags and emergency blankets and hand warmers to distribute with no form of gatekeeping, no form of anything. Yeah. And the elected officials like to pontificate, they like to self-adulate, and no, they're not. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, it's.
I think you are. I think that they're addressing homeless like they've never done it before. I've never seen them addressing like that. That's a good thing. You guys are doing good.
Yeah, well, we're losing viewers. I know I don't look as good as MK.
You're a good speaker, bro.
I'm just loud. Oh, yes.
So we're done, and now there's a concert on, huh?
Apparently.
All right. I'll see you in the morning. I'll see you in the morning.
Probably not in the morning. I do the night stuff.
I'll let y'all have a good night.
All right. Yeah. Thank you. To the 7 viewers, somebody was still lynched just recently. Quan Charles, say his name, was lynched. The shit's still happening. We still haven't had justice. We've had no justice for George Floyd, Elijah McClain, Paul Castaway, Anthony Blackbear, Walter Wallace Jr., Quan Charles now. Honestly, there's so many names. Breonna Taylor. There are so many names that I cannot remember them. Think about that for the 7 viewers who are still on this. There are so many names in the last year of BIPOC folks being murdered, state-sanctioned murder, that we can't even remember their names. There are so many. That is disgusting. And I don't know. I'm just going to sit here until MK gets back or I lose all the viewers.
There were 34 people shot by DPD so far this year.
34 shot.
No, 34 killed.
34 this year? I thought it was 43.
I was told recently that it was 34.
34. I know last year, just DPD.
All the pigs in the metro area.
Okay, gotcha.
Denver Police Department.
I know 8 DPD killed 8 last month.
In a week.
In a week, yeah.
It was in a week, yeah.
Yeah. There was 3, at least in a week, that I know. So for the 7 viewers who are still watching, Denver Police Department, who just got a massive increase in their budget, a massive increase, somewhere in the $10 million range, killed 8 people last month.
What's happening?
Oh, it's over.
It's over already?
Yeah.
They didn't vote on Epstein?
No.
Really?
Well, no, they did. They all voted. They all were like, yay, we did it, yay.
I go to the bathroom for
yeah, and it's over.
5 minutes.
Yeah. So I've just been kind of chatting with the I have 9 viewers now.
Yay. Well.
10.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
Somebody said that you look different and that they like it.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
See, Kerriejoy said you look different and I like it.
Well, it's the effect you have on me. You say, as soon as I saw your name, I started glowing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's over. I don't know I don't know what to do.
I'll shut it all down. You did real good.
Goodbye.
Yeah, we love you too. Yay. Thank you. Or I think she's giving you a compliment there.
Yeah. Stay safe.
Your coach, you're loved. Fuck the police and fuck city council, basically.
Yes.
Fuck them all.
Yes. Hancock too.
And Hancock too. Can't forget Hancock.
And Madam
Fuck
President
you.
specifically for cutting me off.
Right? Because you were phenomenal. That is what civil disobedience looks like. You got to show up and do your own fucking thing. Public comment. Hell yeah. Can't wait till next week.